Chapter 1458. Relax. Even if Master didn't say, I wouldn't let them off easily. I'll mercilessly shut their mouths and make them have nothing to say. Etienne's gaze was icy cold. Want to scam him? See if he had that ability or not. Going back on their words time and time again, it was really disgusting enough. He knew that this group of people was protecting their own position and did not want their interests to suffer. Once they admitted defeat, it was basically equivalent to the Great Devis winning. At that time, according to the promise, the Great Devis would be able to grasp most of the killing power. How to allocate at that time, that would be the Great Devis's business. How could this group of people tolerate this kind of thing? Especially all along, they had always looked down on those people with mediocre talent. The moment they thought that a lot of resources would be allocated to that side, they felt extremely disgusted. Hence, they could only choose to go back on their words and roar shamelessly, so that they could continue to have another chance to be able to suppress Etienne. Immediately, Head Elder immediately picked another late-stage Empyrean powerhouse. He did not dare to pick a middle-level Empyrean. That way, it would be too shameless. Originally, a divine lord dealing with an Empyrean would make people feel like a joke. If it became dealing with a middle-level Empyrean, it would really be shameless. Oh, I was wondering what kind of trump card it was. Turns out that it's an Empyrean who specializes in the wind attribute, and also has all kinds of speed enhancements. In terms of power, it's somewhat inferior to Empyrean Hellfire. But in terms of speed, it can be taken a look. Etienne sized up Empyrean Sharpwind, who walked up and down, and immediately knew what kind of ability the main character they sent up was. They saw that flame power could not be suppressed, so they brought out Empyreans with similar abilities to compete in speed. See whose speed was faster and could suppress the other party with faster power. Your speed is very good, indeed very astonishing. It's just a pity that you ran into me. I'll let you know what's called true speed. The moment Empyrean Sharpwind came up, he did not make too many fancy moves. He immediately released the Empyrean Spirit Treasure on his body, white wings, and quickly equipped it on his back. This kind of Empyrean Spirit Treasure with speed was not unseen. Etienne saw it before. Generally speaking, it was the right choice to make full use of one's advantages. With a xiao sound, Empyrean Sharpwind turned into a white light that swept towards Etienne. It was as if he was a wind blade, and this wind blade was him. The gigantic wind blade was like a crescent moon in the night sky, slashing towards Etienne. Seeing such a frightening speed, a group of people began to cry out in surprise. In their opinion, this speed was definitely a notch higher than Etienne's. The Great Elder clenched his fists tightly. He hoped to win this time. Heavenly Venerable Sharpwind wasn't as strong as Heavenly Venerable Yihua, but if he gave it his all, his speed would definitely surpass Etienne. Now that Empyrean Sharpwind had just stepped onto the stage, he immediately chose to activate all of his strength, converting all of it into speed as he attacked Etienne. What was required wasn't that one's strength had reached the pinnacle, but that one's speed had to be at the pinnacle. It had to be so fast that even a middle-level Heavenly Venerable wouldn't be able to keep up. This was the ability he was proud of. Unfortunately, the first representative wasn't him, because he only had speed. The Great Elder and the others thought that they needed extremely violent power to prove their strength. Who knew that he would be beaten up by Etienne? Now it was his turn to show off his speed. He strove to use his strongest speed to instantly kill Etienne in front of him. While everyone was cheering, little did they know that this place had already fallen into a vicious circle. Even if they won, it wouldn't be glorious at all. After all, they were facing a divine lord, not an Empyrean. Erupting with such valiant power, even if they defeated Etienne in the end, it wouldn't be something to be proud of. Etienne narrowed his eyes as he looked at Empyrean Sharpwind, who was pouncing over. He had to admit that Empyrean Sharpwind's speed when he erupted with all of his strength was really quite astonishing. Just this speed alone could already crush many middle-level Empyreans. However, it was just speed. In terms of power, it was a little weak. When dealing with some true powerhouses, even if he hit the opponent, it would be difficult to be fatal, and it was impossible to be seriously injured. Speed. It's just that I won't compete in speed. If I want to compete, I'll compete in power. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed, and his fist instantly condensed the power of the planet in his body. The 5 elements core instantly surged with surging energy, surging towards his fist, and cyclones intertwined. The dragon and phoenix bloodlines directly exploded and completely integrated into his fist. The evil Lord of Heaven set was also fully activated, and its power was raised to the peak. Among them, it also erupted with the strongest power of the fusion martial arts, heaven-killing divine art, void-piercing. Explode! Yi Tianyun's fist didn't smash anywhere, but chose to smash the void in front of him. Under this fierce blow, the violent power seemed to smash into a transparent wall. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the void immediately collapsed, turning into a chaotic space that shattered in all directions. Heavenly Venerate Sharp Wind, who had pounced forward, collided with this violent power. Under the rebound of the power, he directly raised his head and spat out blood. A large part of his body was crushed, turned into a pile of powder, and was quickly annihilated. Immediately after, a small half of his body fell from the sky to the side, smashing heavily on the ground. His flesh was a bloody mess, and it was quite terrifying. Everyone's eyes widened. What they saw was not Yi Tianyun's body, but Heavenly Venerate Sharp Wind's body. Now, Heavenly Venerate Sharp Wind's body had been smashed into pieces, and it looked quite cruel. No matter what speed, under this punch from Yi Tianyun, it was directly smashed. An extremely shocking range locked down everything in the surroundings. The speed of his punch was not fast, but the power that erupted from it locked down the entire range, and there was no way to avoid it. A true genius will not find excuses for his own failure. A loss is a loss, not a refusal to admit it. It's not that I don't have the power, but your abilities are not worthy of me using my full strength. Yi Tianyun said coldly. If you can't defeat your opponent, don't find excuses to comfort yourself. It will only show your incompetence. Yi Tianyun took 2 steps forward extremely domineeringly, simply using the power of his fist to prove that he was not powerless. What speed! What unbreakable speed! In front of him, it was all empty. Under one punch, everything was destroyed. Good. Heavenly Venerate Sword Judge started applauding, agreeing with Yi Tianyun's words very much. Heavenly Venerate Force and the others all laughed, agreeing with Yi Tianyun's words. A loss is a loss, don't find excuses for your loss. Now Yi Tianyun's punch once again proved that he did not rely on speed to win, but that his opponent did not even have the qualifications to make him erupt. Chapter 1459. Great Elder, I don't know what else you have to say this time. The Great Devis looked at the Great Elder indifferently, and looked at the genius disciples on the side. Now Yi Tianyun broke out with amazing strength, not relying on speed, but relying on his own fists. It completely proves that Yi Tianyun not only has speed, but also amazing strength. In the case where speed can easily win, it means that the opponent is too weak. Yi Tianyun now proves this point. He didn't use any speed. He just punched Feng Rue Heavenly Master. The violent power covered all directions. There is no place can escape his attack, and he easily killed Feng Rue Heavenly Master. No, the Great Elder said bitterly. This time he knows that he really lost. What else can they say? If they continue to say, it means that the middle-level Heavenly Master will come on stage. But the more it is like this, the more they lose face. Because Yi Tianyun's cultivation is only Divine Monarch. A Divine Monarch to fight against an Heavenly Master is already very exaggerated, let alone a middle-level Heavenly Master. The other geniuses also remained silent, only the shock in their eyes, but more of it is unwillingness. In the end the Great Devis won. It means that most of the power is in the hands of the Great Devis. Well, this time the competition is won by the 4th Elder. At this time, the Xiaotian Domain Lord announced that the Great Devis won this competition, and fulfilled his original promise. Finally won. Yi Tianyun breathed a sigh of relief. Although he doesn't mind continuing to fight, if he continues to fight like this he will naturally expose more of his strength. If he can he will definitely stop now. Successfully completed the hidden quest. Help the Great Devis defeat the genius, gain 3000 compressed crazy point, 3000 compressed proficiency, and obtain the special title, First Cut Edge. First Cut Edge. Increase your damage by 10 times in the divine domain. Another special title. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. This effect is very good, and can also be stacked. This meant that if he stayed in the god realm of the three realms, on top of his original foundation, his damage would be increased by 10 times. It was truly heaven-defying. While he was feeling pleasantly surprised, Xiaotian region lord's voice came from above. The vow of 10,000 years has come to an end. According to the original rules, the next region master would be the fourth elder. Now his authority had been elevated to the rank of great elder. The elders of the original rank will be demoted by 1 rank. Yi Tianyun was taken aback. No wonder the first elder and the second elder were so against it, and were willing to go back on their words. So it was this kind of reward. It was really tempting. The great Devis suddenly rose from the position of fourth elder to the position of great elder. This would allow him to immediately become the person with the most authority under the region master. And he would also be the next region master. With all these conditions added together, how could the great elder not go crazy? But now, the great elder couldn't go against it no matter what. Not only had Xiaotian Domain Lord spoken, but the great Devis had proved with his own strength that his theory was correct. He had brought a group of powerhouses who couldn't be considered geniuses over and ruthlessly crushed them. Little did they know that Yi Tianyun was considered to have become a monk halfway through his training. It couldn't be said that the great Devis had personally taught him. But the great Devis didn't care about these things. As long as he could win, then everything would be worth it. Thank you, Region Master. The great Devis half-knelt and accepted these conferments, allowing him to successfully ascend to the top. The Region Empress was extremely excited. She was naturally very happy that her son could succeed. This matter soon came to an end. Even though those geniuses were unwilling, this was an oath that couldn't be violated. Yi Tianyun and the others were arranged to wait in the VIP room, and couldn't wander around. They were the great Devis's disciples, but they couldn't wander around the Xiaotian god realm. Thus, they could only stay here and wait for news. Little junior brother, come let me toast you. Celestial Venerable Yu Qian raised his wine cup very heroically and downed it in 1 gulp. If not for little junior brother, we would have lost for sure. Master definitely wouldn't have had the chance to be the Grand Elder, and would have been demoted even lower. That's right. Little junior brother, let me toast you too. Celestial Venerable Sword C and the others all toasted Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun smiled and drank with them. He was similarly quite happy. He finally ruthlessly abused those guys. But fortunately, he wanted to abuse the other 2 god realms more. When they were almost done drinking, Celestial Venerable Sword C suddenly asked, Little junior brother, if Master lets you join the Xiaotian god realm, will you be willing to join? I'm not willing. Yi Tianyun shook his head and said, although I can intimidate them this time and make them choose to obey, it can't be changed in a short time. I don't want to stay in this damn place. I can only hope that Master can manage it well, and change the atmosphere here. That's right. We also think the same and refuse to join here no matter what. Look at their faces, it's simply disgusting. No wonder Master would run out and want to change the Xiaotian god realm. If this continues, the Xiaotian god realm will be finished sooner or later. Celestial Venerable Sword C was extremely displeased. And geniuses are in the minority. Always ignoring those with average talent won't last long. Right now, the resentment is extremely deep. As it accumulates more and more, there will eventually be a time when it explodes. Celestial Venerable Li and the others shook their heads. They were really unwilling to stay in this kind of place. Their goal was surprisingly the same. They were unwilling to join the Xiaotian god realm. I think Master definitely won't let us join. Even if he becomes the Grand Elder now, he won't let us join. Yi Tianyun drank a mouthful of wine and smiled. How do you know this? Celestial Venerable Sword C said in puzzlement. Master definitely can't leave this place. It's equivalent to returning. Could it be that he's going to let us stay outside? I'm not sure about that. It should be like this for now, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. When they were chatting enthusiastically, the great Devis walked in from outside and said with a smile, You guys are all drinking here. What are you talking about? Why are you so happy? All of them shut up, too embarrassed to say what they were discussing. Nothing much. We were talking about whether or not Master will let us join the Xiutian God realm. Yi Tianyan asked simply and rudely. The mouthful of wine in Celestial Venerable Sword C's mouth directly sprayed onto Celestial Venerable Dragon Cry's face. He did not expect that Yi Tianyan would be so bold to say it out. These words were too straightforward. It almost made them spit it out. Haha, that won't happen. You guys are the first batch of disciples of the vast divine sect. How can you possibly join the Xiutian God realm? The vast divine sect is the vast divine sect. It won't become the Xiutian God realm. The great Devis said solemnly. Moreover, this place hasn't settled down yet. It's far from time to really let you guys join. This place still needs a long time to reorganize. Chapter 1460. This battle was finally over. After the great Devis took office, he didn't immediately make any major changes to the situation. However, the situation would definitely change. The talent test would no longer be defined by that lousy stone tablet. At the same time, the treatment of the disciples with average talent would be greatly enhanced, so that they would have the opportunity to climb up. They would have the opportunity to obtain everything that geniuses could obtain. After these announcements were made, the entire cultivation god realm was in an uproar. Many disciples who were already in despair suddenly felt hope, and felt that they had the hope of turning things around. At the same time, when they learned the details of the inside story, they were deeply shocked. All of this was fought for by Vast Empyrean God. Vast Empyrean God was the fourth elder back then. He made a promise that he would make the heavenly cultivation god domain fair. Even disciples with average talent couldn't be given up. This action immediately made the great Devis's prestige explode. The support for him was unprecedentedly high. It could be said that even the cultivation god realm lord didn't have as high a prestige as the great Devis. There were so many disciples in the cultivation god realm. At least 70% to 80% of them had average or lower level talent. Did such an extreme situation have nothing to do with the cultivation god realm lord? Therefore, the great Devis's prestige reached the peak. Many people even discussed that the great Devis could quickly take office as the domain lord and let him change everything. However, the great Devis wasn't a real god. Although he was a heaven god, he wasn't the omnipotent type. Many things still needed to be done step by step. There was no way to reach the sky in a single step. If he made drastic changes immediately, the geniuses here would definitely cause a backlash. What he needed to do was to balance both sides. These things were enough to keep him busy for a while. As for Yi Tianyan and the others, they chose to leave the cultivation god realm and return to the vast god sect. The vast god sect still had many things to be busy with, so they were handed over to them to manage. Since the great Devis had returned to the cultivation god realm, the vast god sect naturally had to be handed over to them to manage. However, this had nothing to do with Yi Tianyan. He wasn't good at managing these things, so he naturally had nothing to do. It's about time. It's time to go back. Yi Tianyan planned on returning to the divine realm of the three realms. There was no point in staying here any longer. He had already done what he needed to do. All that was left was to properly attack his cultivation and break through to the Empyrean realm. He had already met the requirements to break through to the Empyrean realm, so all he needed to do was accumulate experience and everything would be fine. Just as he was about to leave, rays of golden light suddenly burst forth from the area in front of him, spreading in all directions and illuminating a large area of the god realm. The golden light looked extremely dazzling. Even the myriad realms' divine realm was affected by it. Looking up at the sky, it was all golden and dazzling. It was rather exaggerated. He didn't know what kind of power could reach such a level. What is this? Yi Tianyan was startled. He raised his eyes and looked up, but the appraisal I could not detect anything. This proved that there was nothing inside. It was just a very simple diffusion of energy. Naturally, there was no way to detect anything. At this time, Empyrean Sword Ruler and the others came over. When they saw the scene in front of them, they immediately sighed. It's probably some heavenly god ruins that appeared. That's why there is such an effect. This is the ruins of an ancient heavenly god. The treasures inside must be very tempting. Ancient heavenly god? Tianyan was stunned. Yet they are heavenly gods from a long time ago. Usually they are called ancient heavenly gods. The resources of these ancient heavenly gods are extremely shocking, including the ancient heavenly venerables. However, those that can survive are basically unseen. If they survive for that long, their strength is very heaven-defying. If it's an ancient upper heavenly venerable, they can probably fight head-on with the current heavenly gods. It's quite terrifying. Empyrean Sword Ruler and the others had heard of it, but they didn't know what the actual situation was. There's such a saying? This was the first time Tianyan heard of such an existence. Yes, they are considered a very early batch of experts. Their bloodlines are very ancient, so they are naturally incomparably powerful. After so long, our bloodlines have become extremely thin. How can we compare to them? Empyrean Sword Ruler shook his head. Some rare bloodlines would gradually disappear with the passage of time, and some that still remained were already extremely thin. As they continued to reproduce, with different races, or with the same race, their bloodlines would become thinner and thinner. In the end, it was because their strength was not heaven-defying enough, and their bloodlines were not stable enough. As a result, their strength became weaker and weaker. It was the same kind of bloodline, but the difference in power was like heaven and earth. Tianyan had a deep understanding of this. The grade of his bloodline was equivalent to the ancient bloodline. For example, the ancient dragon god bloodline was equivalent to the 7th or 8th grade. The current dragon god bloodline was only equivalent to the 2nd or 3rd grade. The effect was naturally like heaven and earth. Ancient heavenly god ruins. Tianyan's eyes lit up. What he needed now was a lot of resources. If he could obtain the resources of a heavenly god, it could accelerate the overall strength of the Three Realms god realm. Especially with such a rich heavenly god ruins, it was definitely a world of difference from the current heavenly gods. However, if he killed a current heavenly god, he would also obtain extremely rich resources. It was just that with his current strength he could not do that. Little junior brother, are you interested? Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others could see that Tianyan was ready to make a move. I'm a little interested, and I want to go take a look. Tianyan did not hide it. He indeed wanted to go and investigate. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go together. Heavenly Venerable Sword C laughed loudly, and signaled Heavenly Venerable Li and the others to go together. This. Tianyan looked at them. Let alone Heavenly Venerable Sword C. Even Heavenly Venerable Li and the others were already eager to test his strength. Don't worry, we don't need to manage this place. As for whether or not someone will invade, I believe that no one will dare to mess around. Master will let the experts of the Heaven Cultivation God Realm attack, and any faction will be flattened. Heavenly Venerable Sword C patted his shoulder and said excitedly, moreover, this is the ruins of an ancient heavenly god. Of course, it could also be the ruins of an ancient heavenly venerable. We can only see it once in a very long time. Oh, isn't it said to be an ancient heavenly god? Tianyan was startled. Hee, how would I dare to say that? I'm just casually guessing. It's very likely to be an ancient heavenly venerable. Heavenly Venerable Sword C spread his hands. All right, then let's go now lest it gets snatched away. Tianyan nodded. It was naturally a good thing to move together with them. Chapter 1461. The 5 disciples of the vast divine sect moved out as soon as they said they would. After making some arrangements, they could set off. This was an extremely rare opportunity. They couldn't miss it. Unless their cultivation was too low, they would set off. This was an ancient ruin. There were so many treasures and they could train. How could they miss it? The best way to close the gap between those with ordinary talent and those with amazing talent was to constantly train. Only in this way could they close the gap. If they obtained treasures, they would soar to the sky. So sometimes, talent was just one part. Opportunities could improve themselves. I hope it's an ancient heavenly god ruin. Tianyan hoped that he would encounter a heavenly god ruin, and not an Empyrean ruin. After all, Heavenly God Ruin was a higher level and had more resources. So Itianyan hoped to encounter a heavenly god ruin. The 5 of them quickly went to the area that emitted light. They passed through one god domain after another, and finally arrived at the god domain that emitted golden light. This god domain was actually one of the god domains that had been destroyed in the Battle of God Domains. It was normal for it to appear here. It should be said that it would only appear in such a damaged god domain. Normal god domains wouldn't have such a situation. How could there be light that attracted others? I didn't expect it to be here. Itianyan looked around. Many cultivators flew over. Whether they were itinerant cultivators or powerhouses from certain factions, they would all send people over. Every time something like this happened, there would be a bunch of people coming out, because they knew that every time a ruin appeared, there would definitely be good things. Moreover, they would be of a very good level. It seems like this place has been destroyed, but there are still many intact ruins. Some are hidden in some rocks, and some are protected by spatial turbulence. Now that they burst out, it must be because the seal is broken. Empyrean Sword Ruler knew the most about this. Although Empyrean Force and the others had high cultivation, they didn't know as much as Empyrean Sword Ruler. It was mainly because Empyrean Sword Ruler liked to inquire about all kinds of information, unlike Empyrean Force and the others who only cultivated. I just don't know if this ruin is a heavenly god ruin or an Empyrean ruin. No matter what it is, the competition is not small. The Heaven Cultivation God Domain will probably send people over. Empyrean Sword Ruler guessed. Itianyan nodded. With so many factions coming, the Heaven Cultivation God Domain definitely wouldn't miss this opportunity. Among the 4th grade God Domains, the Heaven Cultivation God Domain was considered very strong, but no matter how strong it was, it still needed resources. Especially since they had more geniuses and needed more resources. They definitely couldn't miss out on these ancient ruins, especially after they came out. The danger would be greatly reduced. According to the original situation, even if he knew that there were many treasures here, and that there might be some ruins sealed somewhere, he would not be able to find them. However, no one dared to casually come looking for him, not even Empyrean gods. The higher one cultivation, the more one feared death. If one died, there would be heaven their cultivation. Soon after, they quickly flew forward. After flying for some distance, they finally saw the true appearance of the ruins. It was no different from an ordinary hall. The divine halls of powerhouses were more or less similar. They would either have a few more statues or a few more lines of words. That was the general scale of the divine halls. Some were special, but the one in front of them wasn't special. It was a high-rank Empyrean spirit treasure. A towering palace stood there, golden light spreading in all directions, looking very dazzling. Without a doubt, the owner of this spirit treasure was metal type. Otherwise, it wouldn't emit such a dazzling golden light. At the same time, it was confirmed that this ruin was an ancient Empyrean ruin, and not a heavenly god ruin. It's a pity that it's an Empyrean ruin. Empyrean Sword Ruler sighed, then smiled. But it doesn't matter. The danger will be reduced a lot. If it's an ancient heavenly god ruin, we have to be more cautious. Otherwise, we'll die without a whole corpse. Itianyan agreed with this. The higher the level of the ruin, the more dangerous it was. Especially an ancient heavenly god ruin. There might be many heavenly gods coming to snatch it. The difficulty could be imagined. Senior brother Sword Ruler really knows how to comfort himself. Itianyan said with a smile. Saying it was a heavenly god ruin was more dangerous, but they also wanted it to be a heavenly god ruin. If they wanted better treasures, they had to be of a higher level. Cough cough, sometimes comfort yourself and know how to be content. Empyrean Sword Ruler said with a smile. Moreover, are the things of an ancient Empyrean not good? There must be many good things. There might even be treasures that can help us break through to heavenly god. That's right, but the difficulty might be a little high. Itianyan looked around and saw a bunch of celestial venerables piled up in a row on the side. Some came alone, and some came in groups. Among them, there was no lack of god lords who came to try their luck, especially some god lords who couldn't break through to Empyrean level. Even if they died, they would come to try their luck. Of course, every time an ancient ruin like this appears, there will be a big fight. There are many casualties. Empyrean sword ruler narrowed his eyes and looked around. His gaze finally gathered on the palace in front. Now we can't enter the palace for the time being. The seal outside hasn't dispersed yet. It shouldn't be a problem to break it by force. But they are staring at each other. I reckon no one is willing to do that. They are all waiting for the seal to break by itself. Many experts were waiting in the surroundings. They didn't rush in immediately because this ancient ruin had a seal. If they wanted to break it, they would need to spend a lot of effort. But they didn't want to do it alone. After all, if they did it and others didn't, wouldn't they be at a disadvantage? The instant the seal was broken, others might take the opportunity to sneak in. At that time, they would really be making a wedding dress for others, and it would be a loss. Moreover, the seal had already become very weak. If they continued for a few more days, this seal would break by itself. At that time, it would be equivalent to the door opening, allowing them to rush in. Looks like we also have to wait outside. Tianyan and the other four were waiting by the side. They similarly didn't want to be the first bird to stand out. They didn't want to work for nothing. Unless the seal could only be broken in a few decades, the cultivators here wouldn't make a move. While they were waiting, there was a steady stream of cultivators rushing over. Tianyan saw that no heavenly gods appeared. Clearly, heavenly gods didn't fancy this kind of resource. Chapter 1462. As time passed, more and more cultivators came over. Their gazes all stared closely at this ancient ruins, waiting for the ancient ruins to open. With the passing of time, this seal became fainter and fainter, feeling like it was going to shatter at any time. Once it shattered, everyone would rush up right away. Almost there, just a bit more and the seal will be broken. And just a bit more. I must get a lot of treasures inside. Too naive. Don't you see so many cultivators here? Wanting to obtain treasures isn't easy. Who cares? Who knows, maybe by casually walking around inside, there'll be treasures dropping in front of me. That's really possible. There was an Empyrean like this before. When others were constantly snatching treasures, he was just strolling around in other places. Suddenly, a treasure dropped down and was picked up by him. Furthermore, it was pretty good. Yeah, so luck is very important. Ruins, this thing is rather unstable. In the past, when its owner was alive, there weren't any problems. Once it collapses, it's easy for all kinds of problems to occur. Everyone was discussing this matter, all hoping that their luck would be a bit better. This way, they did not need to compete with others and could obtain treasures. But this was all just beautiful imagination. Whether they could obtain such wonderful luck, that would really depend on their own luck. Luck, huh? Tianyan smiled slightly. Comparing luck, who could compare to him? It was undeniable that some cultivators' luck was rather heaven-defying, but under his luck halo, who could compare? His luck was not bad to begin with. Adding on 100 times luck, wouldn't treasures drop down while walking? Thinking about the situation in the outer divine regions, one would know how important luck was. Directly making the token appear above was like forcefully pulling it over. Yeah, luck is very important. Due to a long time, these ruins became very unstable. Sometimes, a moment of carelessness, you'll enter a special treasure space and casually plunder those treasures. Empyrean Sword C explained with a smile. At the same time, there's also a possibility of entering a dangerous space with a moment of carelessness, causing yourself to die without an intact corpse. Hence, it's still better to be careful. Tianyan nodded his head. He was still aware of this point. These ruins would appear because they themselves became unstable, leading to this kind of situation. During the initial battle, the shockwaves from the battle would cause damage to these seals. Over time, if it wasn't repaired, it would split open and reappear in the world. Correspondingly, the restrictions inside were all damaged. Once it was damaged, there would be a mistake. This was just like the teleportation formation. Even if it was slightly damaged, it could still be used. However, whether or not it could be sent to the correct destination was another matter. Those who were unlucky would be sent directly into the danger zone, unable to return. Soon. At that moment, everyone saw the barrier rapidly disappearing. It felt as though it would break at any moment. The group of people's nerves were taut. They all wanted to rush in as fast as possible and plunder the treasures inside. It would be easier for the first batch to find treasures, but correspondingly, it would be more dangerous. The further they went, the more danger they would encounter. However, this was the only way to obtain the treasures first. It was much safer to come later, but it really depended on luck. Otherwise, not to mention treasures, even a strand of hair would be taken away. All of a sudden, hundreds and thousands of cultivators stopped discussing anything else. They held their breaths and stared at the ruins. Crack. At that moment, cracks began to appear on the barrier above. Following that, they became bigger and bigger. In the end, the entire barrier was covered in cracks and looked like it would collapse at any moment. At that moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. However, the barrier didn't break. If it didn't break, then they could only continue waiting. It looked very fragile, but it was the most dangerous moment. Once it was broken, a large amount of energy might surge out from inside and attack them ruthlessly. This situation wasn't rare. The main reason was that the aura in the ruins was chaotic. When it dissipated, it was equivalent to the attack of an expert. If they were hit, even if they didn't die, at least they wouldn't be able to explore anymore. It's almost time. At that moment, Tianyun, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. A bright light shot out from his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. It's indeed almost time. This seal is about to break. At most, it can last for a few more days. At that time, it will definitely break. Heavenly Lord Sword Ruler thought that this was what Tianyun meant. That's not what I meant. Senior brothers and senior sisters, grab me. Tianyun gestured for them to grab his arms or shoulders. Grab you? They felt a little puzzled, but they still reached out to grab Tianyun, not knowing what he meant. Following that, their figures flashed, and the 5 of them disappeared into thin air. Everything happened so stealthily. Some cultivators at the side looked over in confusion. When they saw that it was empty, they thought that it was an illusion. Were there 5 people there just now? What 5 people there? Don't look over. Even if they die, it has nothing to do with us. Hurry up and look over here. Don't look elsewhere. Yes. No one cared about the disappearance of Tianyun and the others. Anyway, it was a good thing for them that someone had left. At the same time, Tianyun brought them to a corner of the ruins. This place was extremely remote, and the surroundings were incomparably dilapidated. There was a spatial turbulence in front of them, wreaking havoc at the side. This is inside the ruins? The 4 of them were stunned. They didn't know what was going on, and they were already inside the ruins. Wasn't there a barrier outside? Yes, this is the inside of the ruins. Tianyun looked around. Finally, he could come in ahead of time. Previously, his spiritual sense couldn't penetrate inside, so it was naturally impossible for him to teleport in. When the barrier broke a little, his spiritual sense could finally come in. Then he quickly found a very safe area and teleported them in. Now they were the first batch of cultivators to come in. Moreover, they had plenty of time to explore this place. Correspondingly, they were the first batch to encounter the dangerous area. However, this wasn't the main point for them. The main point was that they had come in ahead of time, which made them feel that it was unbelievable. How did we come in? Isn't there a barrier? Sword Lord Heavenly Venerable and the others were stunned. This is one of my abilities, similar to the power of the void. Tianyun smiled and said, now that we have come in ahead of time, let's see where we can start exploring. Chapter 1463. Tianyun had been waiting for this opportunity. Being able to enter a day or a few hours earlier was a great opportunity. It might be dangerous, but all the treasures here belong to them. No one could enter. The space here is very chaotic. It's indeed a little difficult to deal with, especially if one's power can't be released and is suppressed here. It's very easy to get hurt. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian, and the others looked around. There was a chaotic aura raging in the surroundings. Once the barrier exploded, it would spread out in all directions like a flood. It would be safer then. It was rather dangerous now. One could be seriously injured or even die here if they weren't careful. Tianyan could tell a lot with just a glance. There were several spatial tears in front. If one was sucked in, they would be trapped in the shattered space even if they didn't die. It would take a lot of effort to get out. They might even die directly and get torn apart by the chaotic space. These were the after effects of the battle. While the violent power was wreaking havoc, it affected the space and made it very dangerous. Fortunately, not all areas were very dangerous. There were still many places that were relatively safer. Let's split into two groups. This is the safest and fastest way. Heavenly Venerate Li suggested after looking around. Little junior brother and I will be in one group. The three of you will be in one group. Little junior brother's overall strength is very strong, and he can use void power. He will be in a group with me. The three of you will be in one group. It will be easier to take care of each other. Alright. They didn't waste any time and nodded in agreement to this suggestion. Actually, they all felt that this was a good idea. Tianyan could also use his void power here and escape at the critical moment. He was basically on the same level as Heavenly Venerate Li. As for the three of them, it would be safer. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian could bring the two of them together. This was a very reasonable arrangement. If they moved together, it would be a waste of an opportunity. They wanted to take advantage of the fact that the others couldn't enter, so that they could plunder more things in a short period of time. If they didn't split up, they wouldn't be able to plunder as many things. In that case, they might as well wait for the barrier to shatter and enter when it was safer. Immediately after, they split into two groups and flew in different directions at a moderate speed. They didn't dare to go too fast. If they encountered any danger, they would be dead for sure. Tianyan and Li Tian Heavenly Venerate chose another path and entered the passage. There was still a lot of spatial turbulence around them, and there was also a dangerous aura around them. This is just an ancient Heavenly Venerate ruin. Why is it so dangerous? Tianyan looked at the space turbulence in front of him. If it was the Heavenly God's ruin, wouldn't it be even more exaggerated? This is the difference between ancient empyreans. Long ago, resources were abundant, not as scarce as they are now. The things they obtained were simply too good. Just looking at these ruins, they far surpass our upper-level empyrean spirit treasures. They're not just a single level stronger. They're a bit like empyrean and empyrean god treasures, Empyrean Force explained. Tianyan nodded. He also saw this point. If it was not for the rich resources, there would not be so many cultivators so crazy about it. Let's go. Li Tian Heavenly Venerate snorted and immediately flew towards the spatial turbulence. Li Tian Heavenly Venerate activated his Strength God bloodline and punched at the spatial turbulence, turning the spatial turbulence into nothingness. In some cases, they couldn't break through the turbulence. They could only dodge to the side to avoid being sucked in. Heavenly Venerate Li was strong, but they had to be careful when facing these things. After dodging for a while, they finally arrived at the side of a spacious hall. As soon as they entered, they heard an ear-piercing voice. Invaders! Die! Die! A giant eagle and a giant bear stood on two tall platforms. As soon as they entered, the soil on their bodies trembled, and they pounced toward Tianyan. Each of them was a middle-level Heavenly Venerate statue. Their ferocious strength made them feel a sense of danger. Just the middle-level Heavenly Venerate statue alone gave them the feeling of an upper-level Heavenly Venerate. This was the effect of the ancient era. The materials used to make them were all top-notch. How could they be weak? It's a puppet statue, and its grade is not low either. Heavenly Venerate Li snorted. Finish it quickly. Don't hold back. I'll hold them off. You take the chance to sneak attack them. Mighty God Bloodline all out. Heavenly Venerate Li used his strongest move. His fists swelled up, turning into huge fists that smashed toward the statues without hesitation. He did not hold back at all. He would be an idiot to hide his strength at a time like this. He had to kill them as quickly as possible and earn the treasures. As for running away and not fighting, that was impossible. If they wanted to enter this hall, they had to defeat these statues. Otherwise, the door would not open. This hall was like that. There was only one door, and there were two statues guarding it. Boom boom boom. Heavenly Venerate Mighty Heavenly Venerate's fists rained down on the statues in a frenzy. Even the mighty statues were rapidly forced back by his punches. At this moment, a cold light flashed out from the void. A spear directly pierced through the head of the giant eagle, causing it to explode like it was a piece of tofu. Break! Tianyan walked out of the void. He used the void to sneak attack from the side and easily killed one of the statues. Ding! Successfully killed puppet statue giant eagle. Obtained 100 compressed EXP, 100 compressed crazy point, 100 compressed sin point. At the same time obtained eternal gold, ancient material, illusory sand, ancient material. There was no reward for killing a statue, and there was no reward for killing a statue, but he got some good ancient material. It was obvious that these were statues, which was why there wasn't much EXP or reward for killing someone of a higher level. However, the ancient material made his eyes light up. After the giant eagle statue was killed, it immediately turned into a pile of mud and fell to the ground. Now that he killed them, he got some ancient material, which was a pleasant surprise. Interesting. I need to collect more materials. I want to refine a heavenly venerate spirit treasure. Chapter 1464. After killing the eagle, Tianyan quickly went to kill the bear. With one less, it would be much easier to deal with them. In particular, Heavenly Lord Li's violent power was suppressing his opponent, forcing him to retreat step by step, unable to fight back at all. However, the other party was a puppet, so it didn't know pain and continued to resist. However, under the ferocious attacks, cracks continuously appeared on its body, and it looked as if it would shatter at any moment. Break! Tianyan flew over from the side and pierced its head with his spear, easily finishing it off. Successfully killed puppet statue giant bear. Reward: 100 compressed EXP, 100 compressed crazy point, 100 compressed SPS. Obtained Eternium. The rewards didn't change. It was still the same materials and the familiar experience points. It was pitifully little. Easily taken care of. Little junior brother, your attack is really domineering. Even such a hard head can be pierced by your spear. Truly amazing. Even Heavenly Paragon Li felt that he was inferior. His fists were very strong, but if he wanted to smash his opponent's head with a single punch, it was still far from enough. I focused all my strength on one point, especially its weak point, which is its head. That's why I was able to pierce through it easily. The main thing is that eldest senior brother was able to help me control it. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to deal with it. Tianyan wasn't fawning over the Heavenly Lord's strength at all. It was precisely because of the Heavenly Lord's strength, Heavenly Lord's ferocious beating, that he was able to take it so easily. Otherwise, he would have had to put in more effort. Sure enough, teamwork was much easier. Tianyan's contribution was naturally not small. He had completely mobilized the core energies of the 5 elements in his body and gathered them all together, thus achieving the effect of easily piercing through. These statues were also included. They were a little old, and the great formations on them had deteriorated a little. Their might was far from what it used to be. Haha, as long as you're capable, Celestial Force laughed. Come, let's continue. Tianyan and Mighty Sky Heavenly Master rushed forward. After killing the 2 statues, the door opened. After entering, they immediately saw rows of rooms on both sides. They randomly opened a door and entered, and they could see a lot of pills and weapons inside. This is also a treasure vault. It seems like we've struck it rich. Heavenly Venerate Force's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, let's split up and search. If something happens, retreat immediately. Don't be greedy. Yes. Tianyan nodded his head, and immediately went to search the other rooms. There were some pills, some weapons, and some materials. There weren't many of them, and they were scattered on the side. This place couldn't be considered a treasure trove. When the Divine Realm War began, most of the treasures were definitely on their bodies. Some of them weren't with them. Thus some of them were left behind. But to them, it was a treasure trove. These were all ancient grade materials and pills, so how could they not be precious? Tianyan didn't stand on ceremony and took everything. In terms of weapons, they weren't heaven-defying. They were still at the superior grade Heavenly Tao level. However, in terms of power, It far exceeded the current high-grade Heavenly Tao level. From the appraisal eye, there was even the word primordial behind it. Of course, this did not mean that they were all ancient items. They were definitely extraordinary items, and there were still trash items. After a period of searching, everything here was emptied, and the rest was just some garbage. This place has been cleared out. Let's change to another place. After Heavenly Venerate Force and Yi Tianyun gathered, they continued to explore other places. They basically searched non-stop. However, after searching a few places, the entire area was completely searched. This area is gone. Let's continue searching elsewhere. They quickly continued to search other places. There were also statues standing in other places. With their teamwork, they easily defeated them. The main reason was that their teamwork was getting better, so it was naturally easier. Following that, they continued to search, but the treasures they obtained were extremely few. It should be said that there were very few true treasures. Most of them were scattered items, and they didn't encounter a true treasure trove. This area has been cleared out. There's basically no more space left. Let's go back, Heavenly Venerate Force said. As the main roads outside had been sealed off by spatial turbulence, it was basically impossible to pass through. Therefore, there were many areas that couldn't be collected. The true treasures were clearly in the deeper areas. When they returned to their original starting point, Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others didn't return. They didn't foolishly wait here. Instead, they immediately went to the area that Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others had gone to. After all, there were so many unknown areas here. Who knew if they would encounter any danger? Immediately, they went to the area that Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others were in. Along the way, they saw many guards being killed. The battle was also quite tiring. Not long after, they heard the sounds of intense fighting coming from inside. Waves of energy were constantly flowing through the passageway in front of them. There's a situation. Yi Tianyun and Heavenly Venerate Force exchanged a glance and quickly rushed forward. After passing through a passageway, they saw a human-sized statue that was roughly 1.7 meters tall. However, it was precisely this small statue that blocked the three of them outside. This statue was simply like a living person. Its attacks were very agile, and it constantly used amazing martial arts to force them back again and again. If Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian hadn't resisted many attacks, Heavenly Venerate Sword C and the others would have been in danger. The situation now wasn't optimistic either. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian could barely fight this statue to a standstill. It would be a little difficult to defeat it. Yi Tianyun scanned it with his appraisal eye, and detailed information immediately appeared in front of him. Sword Guard. Middle stage upper Heavenly Venerate. Has domineering sword skills that can easily kill intruders. Its body contains the owner's bloodline power, which greatly increases its power. After inspecting it, Yi Tianyun knew why it was so difficult to deal with. It turned out that this statue contained the owner's bloodline power. This way, it could use all kinds of martial arts that greatly exceeded the level of the previous statues. Just this alone was enough to stop them here. Help! Heavenly Venerate Force Sky didn't hesitate and immediately attacked, suppressing the sword guard with Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian. Junior sister, let me help you. Heavenly Venerate Force Sky shouted and quickly went to help. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian didn't say a word. Her figure flashed, and she stood beside Heavenly Venerate Force Sky, suppressing the sword guard together. The two of them seemed to have cooperated countless times, and they were very familiar with each other. In an instant, the sword guard's attacks were greatly weakened. Chapter 1465. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and Heavenly Venerate's cooperation was perfect. It was obvious that they had worked together frequently in the past. Hence, it was much easier for them to deal with their enemies now. With every move, the sword edge guard was forced to retreat again and again. Heavenly Venerate Mighty Heavenly Venerate's violence, and Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian's gentleness. These were two completely different abilities, yet they were able to perfectly fuse together. They were able to take on all kinds of attacks. Senior brother Li Tian and senior sister Yu Qian's teamwork is amazing. They are suppressing this fellow to the point where he is unable to resist at all. If this goes on, the guard will definitely be defeated. Heavenly Lord Sword Ruler retreated, looking extremely wretched. He hurriedly consumed medicinal pills to recover from his injuries. Overall, they were still fine. It was mainly because Heavenly Venerable Yu Qian was the main combat force that he was able to sustain light injuries. The main reason was that the energy consumption was too crazy. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any problems. Heavenly Venerate Long Ming's situation was much better. His body was tougher to begin with, and his recovery ability wasn't bad, so his situation was naturally much better. Just when they thought that they could easily defeat the enemy, the longsword in the hands of the sword edge guard suddenly burst forth with a dazzling light. Immediately, a sword light that was more than 100 feet tall appeared and crazily danced. The crazily dancing sword gleams were able to form an extreme sword formation. At the same time, countless longswords appeared in the surroundings and attacked the area they were in. Even Yi Tianyan and the others were included in the attack range. This guy is going crazy. Hide quickly. When Heavenly Venerable Jianxi and the rest saw the longsword, they immediately knew that this fellow was going to risk his life and activate the Grand Array to fight against the enemy. The expressions of Heavenly Sovereign Yu Qian and the others changed. These sword formations were not simple, especially since they were gathering ancient-level weapons. Their might was rather shocking. Even though it was only at the high-grade Heavenly Dao level, it was not the least bit inferior to an Empyrean Spirit Treasure-level spirit sword. If a few hundred of them were to explode, it would really be fatal. Swish, swish, swish. One by one, flying swords pierced through the air, trying to destroy the intruders. They could only quickly block the flying swords that pierced through them. Dang, dang, dang. Yi Tianyan quickly brandished the long spear in his hand, deflecting these flying swords away. Every time a flying sword attacked him, he could feel the web between his thumb and forefinger turning numb. The impact was too strong. He had to use a lot of power to resist it. He almost exploded with damage mode. This power was simply too powerful. Every strike had the might of a mid-stage or even late-stage upper Heavenly Venerate. How could they not be suppressed? This was just a puppet. If the real master came out, wouldn't he be able to easily suppress them? This was the truth. The ancient Heavenly Sovereign was no joke. He could easily crush them. Not only were Yi Tianyan and the others pushed back, but even Heavenly Sovereign Yu Qian and the others were pushed back, unable to advance any further. With so many flying swords piercing through him, how could he easily dodge them, especially when each one of them was so powerful? In the blink of an eye, the two Empyreans in the lead had several more wounds on their bodies that were so deep that bones could be seen. This flying sword was so sharp that even Heavenly Venerate Power and the others were easily torn apart. He's really too powerful. Yi Tianyan felt that even if he attacked with all his might, he wouldn't be able to deal with it easily. Even with the crazy damage mode, it was still difficult to catch up to this terrifying power. After all, it was just too powerful. He couldn't keep up with it even if he used it. Unless he improved his cultivation level, he might have a chance to kill it. But from the looks of it, even if he used all his experience points, he probably wouldn't be able to break through to the Heavenly Venerate level. At most, he would be able to break through to the 9th level God Lord level. Therefore, even if he used it now, he wouldn't be able to break through to the peak level. If he broke through to the peak level, coupled with the crazy damage mode, he might be able to fight with a mid-stage or late-stage upper Heavenly Venerate. The crazy damage mode wasn't invincible. The combat power of an upper Heavenly Venerate was extremely shocking. It wasn't something that could be easily surpassed. He might be able to easily deal with a mid-stage Heavenly Venerate, but he was still very powerless against an upper Heavenly Venerate. Retreat! Heavenly Sovereign Yu Qian and the others immediately retreated. However, they discovered that the passage behind them had been sealed. It hadn't been sealed when they came in, but they didn't expect to be sealed when they went out. This meant that they could only enter and not leave. They couldn't wait for more invaders to enter, so that they wouldn't be able to leave. Invaders, you must die for trespassing on the Dragon's Sovereign Shrine. The Sword Edge Guard started speaking in the human language, but his attacks didn't slow down at all. They were now in danger. If they wanted to rush over and kill the sword edge guard, they would have to pay a huge price. Damn it, these flying swords are too powerful. If we get close, I'm afraid we will be severely injured. They frowned. They already had a lot of injuries on their bodies. If this continued, their injuries would definitely become more serious. We can only fight with our lives on the line. They immediately decided to join forces and fight. If they didn't, they would all die here. Just as they were about to fight with their lives on the line, a green light suddenly shrouded them and healed their injuries rapidly. In the blink of an eye, most of their injuries were healed. The crazy healing power crushed everything. Senior brothers and senior sisters, let me help you. Tianyan quickly released the Voodoo Wood Divine Set, which doubled their healing power and helped them resist the increasing injuries. Okay. Their eyes lit up as they felt their injuries rapidly recovering. They could fight with their lives on the line now. Kill. The two of them looked at each other and quickly rushed toward the sword edge guard. Their crazy power completely exploded, and they were much stronger than before. This time they were going all out to suppress the sword edge guard, so the effect was naturally much stronger. Suppress. The two of them roared and joined hands to display a martial art. It was a relatively rare joint martial art. After joining forces, their power increased greatly. Then they fiercely suppressed the sword edge guard. At the same time, the sword edge guard also fought with their lives on the line. Many flying swords flew over, constantly injuring Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others. However, they were not afraid at all. With Tianyan's recovery power, they didn't need to worry too much about their injuries. They just had to fight with their lives on the line. Die. The two of them heavily attacked. The combined compressed energy sent the sword edge guard flying. It hit the wall and turned into a pile of powder. It was completely dead. Under the suppression of the two of them, they finally killed the sword edge guard. At the same time, the two of them were also badly injured. They either lost a large piece of their body or an arm. Chapter 1466. Ding. Successfully killed sword guard. Reward: 500 compressed EXP, 500 compressed crazy point, 500 compressed SPS. Obtain Dragon Bloodline rare. Eternal Gold Mirage Sand, Dragon Temple Structure Diagram rare. After the sword guard was killed, Tianyan successfully obtained the reward. Although he didn't touch the sword guard, he healed Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others, so he can get the corresponding reward. After seeing the reward, Tianyan's eyes suddenly lit up. These are all good things. Not only can he get amazing bloodline power, but he can also get the Dragon Temple Structure Diagram. Bloodline power and Dragon Temple Structure Diagram. Tianyan immediately checked the effect of the two things, and soon the detailed information of the two things appeared in front of him. Dragon Bloodline. After absorbing, you can obtain Dragon Bloodline power. Structure of the Dragon Revered Temple. A rough outline of the structure of the temple. After absorbing, can I strengthen Dragon and Phoenix Divine Veins? He didn't hesitate and immediately used the Dragon Bloodline. After absorbing, a voice sounded in his ears. Dragon and Phoenix Divine Veins upgraded to second level, effect increased. Strength increased to 200 times, speed increased to 200 times. Has the effect of rebirth, cooldown shortened to 5 years. At the same time, strengthen the Dragon and Phoenix Phantom, increase the suppression effect on the monster clan. After absorbing the Dragon Bloodline, it only upgraded by 1 level, but overall, it's still very good. If it's just a simple upgrade, it needs a lot of crazy point. It's a pleasant surprise that it can be used to upgrade. It can enhance a lot of power, not bad. Tianyan nodded, but he originally planned to upgrade this bloodline so that he can strengthen his power. Even if there is a little gap in cultivation, he can still make up for it with the power of the bloodline. Then he turned his attention to the map of the Dragon's Sovereign Shrine. It did show a rough structure, but it didn't show what was inside, nor did it show any arrays or dangerous areas. It's a very simple explanation of how many rooms there are, where there are passages and so on. It's quite simple. However, it was already quite good to have this kind of structure. At the very least, he could know what the overall structure was like, which would allow him to take fewer detours. So this is the structure. Yi Tianyan felt that this thing was still very important. Once it was officially opened, he would be able to go straight to the most important area. There were no markings on where the treasures were, but the truly precious treasures were definitely in the deeper regions. Through this map, he could easily bypass them and reach his destination. Little junior brother, your healing powers are simply too strong. If it weren't for you, I would have been seriously injured. Heavenly Premier Force and the others came over to praise Yi Tianyan. This is all I can do. Yi Tianyan smiled. Being able to help was already a good thing. He was just afraid of standing there like an idiot. That's more than enough. Otherwise, if we were to fight them head-on, we would probably lose our battle power before we could even hit them. Heavenly Paragon Force's expression was solemn. This was no joke. With so many flying swords flying towards him, there was no way he could dodge them easily. No matter what, he would be hit many times. When that happened, he might even lose his battle power. Therefore, Yi Tianyan's help was decisive for them. There's no need to say too much. Let's go and see if there are any treasures. The guards here are so strong. There should be many treasures inside. Yi Tianyan said with a smile. Yes, let's go and search for treasures. They immediately became spirited. With such strong guards, there must be some important treasures inside. Otherwise, why would they send such strong guards? They couldn't be too weak inside. Immediately after, they quickly rushed inside. After entering the passageway, what came into view was not a special room, but a pool. Faint golden spring water constantly gushed out from inside and filled the pool. Other than that, there were many golden spirit herbs beside the pool. They looked very dazzling and golden. This is golden bellflower, that is golden moon grass. They are all very rare spirit herbs. After seeing them, their eyes lit up. They were all relatively rare spirit herbs. However, what they paid more attention to was the pool in front of them. These spirit herbs all grew beside the pool. There was no doubt that they were relying on the liquid in the pool to help them grow. This should be the golden spirit pool. Legend has it that there is dense metal energy constantly gushing out. If we absorb it, we can greatly strengthen our physiques. If we have a metal attribute constitution, the effect will be even more shocking. It's a pity that our constitutions aren't metal attribute. However, it doesn't hinder us from absorbing it. It can strengthen our physiques. Heavenly Paragon Swordsy was very knowledgeable. He immediately recognized what this thing was and was pleasantly surprised. Golden Spirit Pool. There is a golden pool underground. It can continuously absorb the surrounding energy and transform it into metal spirit liquid for absorption. After absorbing, it can greatly strengthen one's physique. However, as one's cultivation increases, the effect will decrease. If one has a metal attribute constitution, the effect will increase by 3 times. It's indeed a good thing. I just don't know how effective it is. Yi Tianyan's eyes lit up. It was definitely a good thing to strengthen one's physique. Especially if it was not limited to metal attribute constitutions. Needless to say, as long as it was alive, it could be absorbed. This meant that everyone present could go down and absorb it. Then why wait for us? Let's go down and absorb it together. If we wait for the door to open, we definitely won't be able to slowly absorb it. Or rather, we don't want to stay here to absorb it. Yi Tianyan smiled and jumped down. That's right. Let's quickly go down and absorb it. We definitely can't waste it. Absorb as much as we can. Heavenly Paragon Swordsy and the others entered the water one after another. As soon as they entered the water, they used all their strength to absorb it. Their bodies immediately turned golden, looking like they were leaning towards metal attribute. In reality, it didn't change the attributes of their bodies. It only strengthened their physiques. After entering the water, Yi Tianyan also crazily absorbed it. However, his constitution was different. His constitution could accommodate any attribute. This meant that he could transform into any attribute at will. It could be said that he could transform into a metal attribute constitution, increasing the effect to the greatest. Buzz. Chapter 1467. The whirlpool around Yi Tianyan was the largest. It was a size larger than the others, and the absorption speed was much faster. In the blink of an eye, a large portion of the golden energy around him was drained by him, and it gradually returned to the state of ordinary water. Originally, this golden pool came from the golden pool eye below. After absorbing the energy within, it would naturally return to the color of ordinary water. Etienne's absorption speed was not only amazing, but the key was that the effect was even more amazing. It was 3 times as much as the others. As a result, his body began to strengthen rapidly. His body was covered with layers of thin golden leaves, and he really looked like a golden man. The effect is okay. Etienne felt that the effect was okay, but it was definitely not of a very high level. It could only be considered average. His physique was too strong. After so many bloodline enhancements, the effect of this golden liquid was naturally quite reduced. Fortunately, there was a 3 times increase. Otherwise, the effect would really be negligible. As for the other heavenly venerables, the effect was also relatively limited, but it was better than nothing. For their cultivation base, it was extremely difficult to increase a little. Unless their physique was relatively weak, the effect was relatively average. To them, it was a very good effect to be able to increase a little. Anyway, this was not theirs. Even if it could only increase a little, it was already a good effect. Immediately after, Etienne continued to absorb crazily. The surrounding whirlpools became stronger and stronger. Gradually, the golden liquid of this golden god pool began to be rapidly absorbed. If this continued, all the energy of this golden god pool would be absorbed completely. Not too much time passed. In the short span of a day, this amazing golden god pool was sucked dry just like that. There was not a bit of golden liquid left. What was left was a pool of ordinary water. Gone. Etienne opened his eyes. The golden color on his body gradually faded, and he returned to his original color. The situation did not seem to be a big problem. The key was that the energy in his body had been slightly strengthened. The other heavenly venerables opened their eyes one after another, all with a look of longing. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. They naturally felt that they would not think it was too little. Little junior brother, you're absorbing too quickly. You're much faster than us. I reckon that more than half of the golden divinity pool's energy was absorbed by you. Heavenly Venerable Sword C laughed. It's all right. Etienne scratched his head in embarrassment. He did absorb the energy the fastest and fiercest. Hurry up and dig up the golden lake eye below. When the time comes, let junior brother take it back and choose a place in his own force, then set it up. When the time comes, it will also form a golden divine pool. As a place to nurture disciples, it's pretty good. It can definitely nurture even stronger geniuses. Celestial Venerable Sword C suggested from the side, signaling Etienne to go down and dig it up. This thing was not a one-time thing. As long as one dug it out and buried it in a good place, it would be the same as this place after some time. This is a little embarrassing. Etienne looked at the golden pool eye at the bottom of the pool. It indeed looked like a huge eye buried in the bottom of the pool. Those who did not know much about it did look rather horrifying. It was like a huge eye looking at them from the bottom of the pool. How could they not feel horrified? According to the level of the treasure, this was at least a celestial venerable level treasure. Its grade was naturally not too low. What's there to be embarrassed about? If little junior brother hadn't brought us in first, we definitely wouldn't be fated with this place. Moreover, he could obtain so many treasures. Needless to say, I've never experienced such an easy way to obtain treasures. The entire ruin seems to belong to me. Celestial Venerable Sword C laughed. In the past, when they encountered a ruin, they would first kill their way in among groups of cultivators, and then continuously rush forward, racing against time. It was so that they could snatch the treasures first. However, most of the treasures were snatched by others first, and they did not even get to drink the soup. It was different now. They could swagger in and pick any treasure they wanted. They did not have to worry about being snatched at all. The only thing they were worried about was encountering various traps or encountering guardians. That's right. Don't be polite with us. When we want to absorb it, we'll look for you. Celestial Venerable Force smiled knowingly at the side. All right, I won't be pretentious. Then I'll take it back first. When the time comes, senior brothers and senior sisters, and the disciples under me can look for me again if they need it. Yi Tianyan naturally would not be polite. This thing was quite good. It could speed up the cultivation of the disciples of the three realms. He would never think that he had too little of such things. Immediately, Yi Tianyan swam to the bottom, and began to dig out the golden pool eye. As it was covered with a large array, it was slightly more difficult to dig it out. Fortunately, with the help of other senior brothers, it was soon easily dug out. After digging it out, he threw it into his inventory and swam up. It's about time. There's no way out here. Return to the outermost area and wait for the seal to break before continuing in. Celestial Venerable Force said. They nodded and flew to the passage outside to wait. The location they chose was the safest and most stable area. When the seal broke, the entire ruin would change. They did not wait long. Very soon, the barrier outside finally shattered into countless pieces with a cracking sound. Boom! As soon as the barrier broke, a terrifying wave of energy rushed out from the hall. Like a thick beam of light, it blasted towards the void outside. Some powerhouses did not dodge in time, and were immediately affected by this beam of light. They were completely turned into nothingness. They did not even have the chance to scream before they died. They were far away, but the direction of the attack just happened to be aimed at them. They could only blame their bad luck. The situation inside the ruin also fluctuated wildly, wreaking havoc in all directions. Whether it was the ground or the walls, they were constantly bombarded with deep marks. The entire ruin shook violently, as if it was about to collapse. This was the result of the energy being compressed for too long. After the seal was broken, it poured out in torrents. It looked very exaggerated. Inside the passageway, they formed a thick shield to protect themselves. This wave of impact also spread over. Fortunately, the strongest force was outside the passage at the entrance. The other passages were weaker, and with their ability to withstand it, there was no problem. This wave of impact lasted for several hours before it finally stopped. Go! Chapter 1468. Yi Tianyan and the others quickly rushed towards the Dragon Sovereign Temple, and the rest of the cultivators who were rushing towards the Dragon Sovereign Temple were like a group of carps crossing the river. It's all mine. All the treasures are mine. Get lost. All the treasures are mine. A bunch of idiots. Your cultivation is so weak, yet you still want to snatch the treasures. Get lost. When they rushed in, they immediately started fighting each other madly for the sake of fighting for more treasures. Some of the stronger ones rushed in as fast as they could. After coming in, they looked at a random place and rushed in. So far, it was important not to cause any fights. There was no point in fighting without getting the treasures. But some people just bumped into each other and started fighting, not giving way to each other. Such idiots weren't rare, and there were quite a lot of them. Soon, everyone rushed into the other passages. After searching through the rooms, they were all dumbfounded. What's going on? There's nothing here? There's nothing here either. It's empty. What's going on? Why is there a pool here? Could it be some special pool? Damn it. It's just ordinary water. There's no effect at all, and it's a little disgusting to drink. After rushing in, they found that the room was empty. There wasn't even a single strand of hair left. As for the pool, there was no energy at all. It was just an ordinary pool. Everyone was disappointed. He thought he would find a lot of treasures, but in the end, it was all for naught. There was nothing. They felt that they had been tricked, thinking that there was nothing in the ruins. How could they even talk about treasure hunting? Most of the cultivators felt that they had been tricked after rushing in. Not to mention that they could get treasures, at least others could get treasures. Who knew that there was nothing here? At the same time, Yi Tianyan and the rest quickly went in. There were many intersecting entrances like a maze. But this wasn't a problem for Yi Tianyan. He had the blueprint of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine, so he could go wherever he wanted. This way. Yi Tianyan signaled them to follow him as they ran deeper into the dragon-revered temple. The treasure was definitely in the deepest part of the temple, so it couldn't be in the outer regions. Heavenly Sovereign Li and the others didn't think too much about it. They all followed Yi Tianyan and rushed inside. As Yi Tianyan circled around, he finally arrived at the inner area. There were many passageways in this area, but they were all tightly locked. If one wanted to pass through, they would either have to destroy the door or break the restriction. The doors here are all locked. It's even more disgusting than meeting the guards. Heavenly Lord Sword C and the others frowned. If they encountered the guards, they could still fight, but if the gate was sealed, they would need to find a way to open it. There are quite a number of open passageways here. Why don't we look over there? Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry suggested. It's hard to say from there. If we go in from here, we can reach the innermost part. When Yi Tianyan sensed everyone's astonished gazes, he took out the blueprint of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine. It was something that could be taken out, and was similar to a map. This is what I found before. Although it didn't mark anything, at least we know how to get to the innermost part. The real treasures should be in the innermost part. You don't have any objections, right? After spreading it out, they were shocked. They didn't expect Yi Tianyan to have such a thing. Indeed, I didn't expect Junior Brother to be able to find such a thing. No wonder you led the way for us. Heavenly Sovereign Sword C smiled in surprise. He didn't expect to find such a thing. However, they didn't suspect anything. After all, it couldn't have been drawn by Yi Tianyan himself, could it? The passageway on the side is probably the key to opening the door. Correspondingly, there might be danger. From this, I can see that the area is more complicated and there might be many guards. Sure enough, it's dangerous. Treasures aren't that easy to obtain. Yi Tianyan looked at the blueprint. There were many passageways on both sides, and it wasn't just one. There were a total of 3 doors in front of him, and there was a groove on them. This meant that something had to be embedded in them to open the door. Without a doubt, the danger inside wouldn't be low. The closer they got, the more dangerous it would be. There were so many guards outside, so how could there not be any inside? Looks like we have to look for the key again. How troublesome. Can't these ruins open all the doors? Heavenly Sovereign Sword C felt helpless. This was simply a trap. Don't you lock up your treasures? Heavenly Sovereign Dragon Cry retorted from the side. Heavenly Sovereign Sword C immediately stopped talking. Even in his territory, some treasures would be locked up, so it wouldn't be easy to find them. Actually, the most important thing is whether or not the key will be taken away. Yi Tianyan felt that this was the key. These grooves were all embedded with things. If the key was taken away, how could he continue? She could only stand outside and stare blankly. This is really possible, but we can only look for it now. Even if we can't enter, it would be good to plunder some treasures. Heavenly Sovereign Force said solemnly. As usual, we will split into 2 groups and go to different areas to search. If there is a problem, quickly escape, don't force it. No problem. Heavenly Sovereign Yu Qian nodded, and immediately led Heavenly Sovereign Sword C and the others to one of the passageways. Yi Tianyan and Heavenly Sovereign Force also went to the other passageway. But when they rushed into the passageway, Yi Tianyan immediately felt himself pass through a wave of ripples, and then Heavenly Sovereign Force beside him disappeared. It's an isolated space. Yi Tianyan quickly turned and walked back, but he found that it was already too late. He was completely separated from Heavenly Sovereign Force, and he couldn't touch him. This kind of restriction was relatively common, and some weak points could be broken. At least, the one in front of him couldn't be broken. It was an extremely profound restriction that required at least a 6th or 7th grade divine inscriber to break, and it would take a long time. Yi Tianyan's grade wasn't at that level, so he naturally couldn't break it easily. It was useless to walk back now. It was equivalent to entering a trap, so how could he get out? Unless he broke this trap, there was no way to get out. I didn't expect to be tricked, and no one knew. Yi Tianyan frowned. He couldn't see any problems from the outside, but he could only sense it after entering. He had to say that this Dragon Sovereign Temple had some skills. It seems that we can only take one step at a time, and see what the situation is here. Yi Tianyan didn't panic. Before entering, he had already prepared for any accidents. Chapter 1469. After Itianyan came in, he directly walked forward. He could only go forward. If he went back, he would have to take a detour. He wanted to see through the situation here, but he couldn't easily do so. His grade was a bit too low. Unless he raised his divine carving master grade to the 6th or 7th grade level. After circling around, Itianyan immediately felt a sense of crisis in front of him, causing him to frown. He feared that if he continued forward he would encounter danger. He wasn't worried about a battle, but he was in the opponent's advantageous position. This wasn't something that could be solved easily. After thinking about it for a moment, he decided to raise his divine carving master level. Raise divine carving master grade. Ding, successfully deduct proficiency. Ding, congratulations to player Itianyan for successfully raising the divine carving master grade to 4th grade. Ding, successfully deduct proficiency. Ding, congratulations to player Itianyan for successfully raising the divine carving master grade to 7th grade. Itianyan's proficiency had been completely used up. There was basically nothing left. Even his sin value had been ruthlessly thrown in. After the previous system upgrade, whether it was proficiency or sin value, they could be converted to each other. Under the conversion, he could barely raise the divine carving master grade to 7th grade. This required far too many proficiency points. It was simply exploding. Towards the end, he needed tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of proficiency points. It was simply a fraud. Even after accumulating so many proficiency points, it still wasn't enough to fill his teeth. He had to use up all of his sin value in order to raise it to 7th grade. I've finally advanced to 7th grade. Itianyan let out a deep breath. When he looked up, he was immediately stunned. He discovered that his soul strength had jumped to the Empyrean level. Moreover, it was at the middle Empyrean level. This leap was truly amazing. It had to be known that his soul strength was at most at the Divine Lord level before. But in the blink of an eye, it had risen to the middle Empyrean level. Without a doubt, soul strength was linked to the Divine Carving Master grade. The higher the grade, the higher the soul strength. This meant that if he continued to level up, the strength of his soul would increase along with it. This kind of leveling up was really too easy. It was as if it was free. I never thought that advancing to a Divine Inscription Master would have such an effect. It's really beyond my expectations. Itianyan shook his head. He felt that this was really unexpected, and it was far beyond his expectations. In the past, he didn't have such a strong feeling. But now that he had become a Divine Engraving Master, his feeling had risen. His cultivation hadn't even broken through to the Empyrean realm. Yet his soul strength had already risen to the Empyrean realm. This was really a little funny. Then let me see the true face of this place. Itianyan's eyes flickered as he activated his third eye. A talent like the heavenly eye would improve along with the strength of one's soul. Basically, it was an exceptional divine skill. He didn't even need to cultivate it to be able to display greater strength. After releasing it, the surrounding divine seal patterns immediately appeared in front of him. Every detail was clearly displayed, including the trap formation in front of them. This was because after advancing his soul strength, he could easily use the third eye to investigate. If it were in the past, he wouldn't have been able to easily see through it. Even if he were blind, he still wouldn't have been able to see through it. If it were so easy to see through it, then it wouldn't have been an ancient Empyrean ruin. As long as it was an intruder, it would be killed without hesitation. These ruins were originally different from those ruins that were used to select legacy disciples. This was originally the territory of others. If a disciple didn't belong here, they would naturally be killed. Thus, if one went to the ruins to search for treasures, they would face the danger of death. So that's how it is, its senior apprentice brother Li Tian. Itianyan's eyes flashed. He saw that Empyrean Li Tian was being controlled by a large array formation. The surrounding array formations were wildly attacking him, leaving him no place to hide. It seemed that Empyrean Li Tian had been attacked for a long time. His body was already covered with cuts and bruises. It was unknown how many times he had been attacked. If this continued, Empyrean Li Tian would definitely be exhausted. This place was filled with attack arrays. All intruders would be separated, as if they had entered a different space. In such a situation, A fierce attack would not feel good no matter what. Damn it, I don't believe that I can't break it. Empyrean Li Tian roared. He swung his fists and punched the array formation in front of him. He punched out fiercely again and again, wanting to forcefully destroy this formation. Heavenly Venerate Mighty Sky didn't know any divine seals, nor did he know any grand arrays. He just relied on his brute strength to attack the grand array. If this continued, he would definitely be able to break the array formation. However, after he broke the array formation, there would be even more arrays waiting for him. This meant that if he continued, he would definitely be attacked repeatedly. It would be difficult for him to advance, and he might even die here. It had to be said that he had only just entered, and the dangers here were already exposed. This was much more dangerous than the outside world. Looks like I have to save him. Etienne's eyes flashed. He knew that Empyrean Li Tian could still hold on and break the array formation. However, that would be a waste of time. He would also be attacked continuously. It wasn't worth it. He had to end the battle quickly here. He definitely couldn't drag things out. His figure flickered and disappeared from the void. He entered the space where Empyrean Li Tian was. This situation was just like in the 10,000 Divine Pagoda. He could easily enter other spaces. However, the array formation here was much more sophisticated than the 10,000 Divine Pagoda. Therefore, he couldn't use the power of the void to enter from the beginning. It was like a locked door. The power of the void was like a key. Because the lock was too complicated, he couldn't open it. However, things were different now. After the advancement of the Divine Carver Master, he had become a more advanced master key that could penetrate the void. He easily entered the void where Empyrean Li Tian was, and appeared next to him. He hurriedly said, "Big senior brother, grab me." Li Tian Heavenly Venerate turned his head and saw Etienne reaching out to him. Without hesitation, Li Tian Heavenly Venerate grabbed Etienne and dragged him into the void. After entering the void, he was brought into another space. Naturally, there were no arrays here, so Empyrean Li Tian could rest. Little junior brother, it's really all thanks to you. Otherwise, I would have been severely injured if I had really broken through that formation. The Heavenly Paragon Force wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. This was just the beginning, and he was already in such a sorry state. It seems like this area isn't safe. We can only gather and move together, Etienne said. Chapter 1470. Among the five of them, there was basically no one who had any achievements in the field of divine carving masters. The highest level was only at the 2nd or 3rd grade. 2nd or 3rd grade divine carving masters were useless here. Therefore, it was better to gather together and move. This was a bit of a waste of time, but moving steadily was the key. Heavenly Venerate Li agreed with Etienne. Who would have thought that things would be so complicated here? They could only look for them honestly. It was best to move together. Then, under Etienne's lead, they quickly chased after Heavenly Venerate Sword C and the others. As Etienne's ability had improved, it wasn't a problem for him to bring people out of here. After leaving here, they rushed to the other passage without stopping. The other passage was exactly the same as the one Etienne and the others had encountered before. It was also a strange array. Etienne had just come in, and immediately saw Heavenly Venerate Sword C and the others being besieged. Heavenly Venerate Sword C was on the verge of death. Several parts of his body had been cut off, and one of his arms had been broken off. He was still constantly dodging, using his last bit of effort to avoid these attacks. It wasn't that Heavenly Venerate Sword C was too weak, but the array here was too abnormal. It was simply fatal. The main reason was that the territory was theirs. If there were too many arrays, the result would be the death of the invaders. Senior brother Sword C is in trouble. Etienne quickly passed through the void. Before Heavenly Venerate Sword C could react, he was dragged into the void by Etienne. Then he used the Voodoo Wood Divine set to quickly heal him. Many thanks. After saying these words, Heavenly Venerate Sword C fainted in Heavenly Venerate Li's arms, which showed how serious the consumption was. As long as the soul in the head wasn't destroyed, he wouldn't die. However, the body was constantly injured, which would still have a great impact. Senior brother Li Tian, wait here. I'll go save senior brother Dragon Cry. Yi Tianyan once again went to another space to save Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry's situation was much better. His recovery was amazing, and he could still persist under the fierce attacks. But if they continued like this, they wouldn't be able to pass through too many areas. Only Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian was able to make it to the next great array. Furthermore, it seemed like he was about to break it. It seemed like Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian was still much stronger. From this, it could be seen that this was a place that only upper Empyreans could survive. It would be difficult for other cultivators to survive here. Yi Tianyan was relying on his amazing divine inscription master skills to not be injured. Soon, Yi Tianyan dragged Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian back and started treating them. I didn't expect that we wouldn't even be able to make it through here. It's just too difficult. One by one, they shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They had been to some ruins before, and the difficulty was either not as high as this one, or they had walked through ruins that others had explored before, so the danger was not as high. This was just the beginning, and they were already unable to attack. It was really embarrassing. It should be said that they were a little depressed. They thought that their strength was not bad, but when they came here, they realized that the gap between them was too big. They could not enter at all. Yi Tianyan also had a deep understanding of the situation here. This place was just too formidable. The territory of an ancient Empyrean really could not be compared to the present. Logically speaking, the further one went, the stronger it should be. He did not expect that an ancient-level great array would win, and a complete victory at that. No wonder so many powerhouses would come over when these ancient ruins opened. These things far surpassed the current level. For such a situation to occur, Yi Tianyan guessed that it was related to the materials. The current rare materials, compared to the previous world, could be found all over the streets. Thus, the great array formations or weapons that were refined far surpassed the current level. Because the materials for the current weapons and great array formations were insufficient, they could only choose to replace other materials to refine. This caused the effects to decline. It was not that the current level was inferior to the past, but that the materials were far inferior to the past. With the passage of time, it was normal for materials to become increasingly scarce. Wasn't the war that erupted in the divine realm in the past for the sake of seizing resources and materials? In the aspect of a divine inscription master, I still have some attainments. I shouldn't have any problems passing through here. Why don't you enter my inner world and wait until I need to fight? Then I'll let you out. How about this? Yi Tianyan asked. Generally speaking, letting others enter one's inner world was quite dangerous. If there was internal damage, then the impact on him would be very serious. Similarly, if Yi Tianyan was attacked, then he would die together with them. No problem, it's decided. Without thinking too much, they chose to enter Yi Tianyan's inner world. They had all witnessed Yi Tianyan's ability just now. If it weren't for Yi Tianyan's help, they would still be trapped inside, constantly fighting against those great array formations. Yi Tianyan nodded and quickly summoned them into his inner world, which was the planet at the core of the 5 elements. After entering, they didn't feel anything wrong. In fact, the core of the 5 elements was equivalent to the balanced world outside. They couldn't sense anything wrong. Thus, they didn't feel anything was wrong. Rather, they felt comfortable and natural. After receiving them into his inner world, Yi Tianyan quickly moved forwards, avoiding the great array formations along the way. If he encountered one that he couldn't avoid, he would enter the void or break the array formation. Thus, there wasn't the least bit of pressure along the way. A 7th grade divine inscription master couldn't say that they could walk unhindered outside, but they could at least relax here. Soon, after breaking through the array formations, they finally passed through the long corridor and arrived at the great hall outside. It's really abnormal. There are 7 or 8 great array formations along the way. How can I even play? Yi Tianyan was a bit speechless. Even if it was to resist intruders, was there a need to be so abnormal? If he had judged wrongly, then his own people would have died in these great array formations. It was obvious that the master of this place was extremely suspicious and worried that someone would invade. who knew that they would still die here. If they died outside, then wouldn't their efforts be in vain? Just as he was about to relax, a stiff voice suddenly sounded out in front of him. Intruders die. The 5 puppets rushed towards Etienne's side. It's really a wave after wave of trouble. Damn it, if I encounter this fellow's corpse I will ruthlessly crush it. Etienne clenched his teeth. He released Emperor Wuxia and the others so that they could participate in the battle together. Chapter 1471. Etienne and Heavenly Venerate Wuxia and the others quickly got rid of this batch of puppet statues and obtained a pile of rare materials. However, they had used up quite a lot of resources. They had only been able to kill these puppet statues after putting their lives on the line. Each one was harder than the last, and their cultivation was not low either. It was already not bad that they could deal with them. At the same time, he obtained a key crystal stone called golden pyroxene. Golden pyroxene? Could it be a stone placed in the groove outside? Etienne narrowed his eyes. He did not expect to obtain such a rare key after killing these puppets. Of course, it was another matter. At least for now, it seemed like it was a key. It's finally over. Let's continue. Etienne heaved a sigh of relief. After resting for a while, he took Heavenly Venerate Wuxia and the others back into his inner world, and continued running forward. He had thought that there would be some dangerous area ahead. Who knew that he would arrive at a treasure trove? This is an elixir room. Etienne glanced around and saw that many of the medicine bottles on the shelves had fallen all over the ground. Many of them had already fallen and turned into piles of mud. If the elixirs were stored in elixir bottles, they might be able to last longer. However, after they fell out, the energy contained in them would dissipate. Over time, they would turn into mud without any energy. Etienne glanced around casually and finally fixed his eyes on the groove in the center area. There was nothing there. There was no key in this area, just a pile of elixirs. Logically speaking, the key should be in the groove. However, it was not here. Did this mean that they had made a wasted trip? The key was indeed taken away. Who would be so stupid as to leave the key here? Etienne shook his head. Then he took out the golden pyroxene and inserted it into the groove. As soon as it was inserted, the groove immediately emitted a faint golden light. Then the door began to open slowly, revealing the scene inside. A large area of elixirs. There were fields of spiritual medicines here, all of them planted at the side. This was especially the case for the entire piece of land, which was a rare treasure. The seemingly ordinary soil was actually the new sea mud, a special kind of soil that could allow spirit herbs to grow faster. When Etienne released Heavenly Venerate Wuxia, they were all shocked. He didn't expect that there would be such a complete herb garden here. This was somewhat unexpected. However, there was one thing that made them feel that it was a pity. The spirit herbs here had all withered and were basically no different from weeds. This place had been left unattended for too long, so it naturally became dilapidated. If it wasn't watered often, it would wither. This place was different from the golden spirit pool, which could nurture other spirit medicines. Using the liquid from the golden spirit pool to water this place would not have an obvious effect, and it might even kill the spirit medicines here. Not all spirit herbs could absorb the golden pool liquid. It seems that they didn't expect to encounter the war of the divine realm. At that time, these medicinal herbs probably hadn't matured yet. These batches of medicinal herbs were all at least 10,000 years old. What a pity, they've all been destroyed and have no effect at all. When Heavenly Venerate Li and the others saw the environment, they immediately knew that this was a herb garden. But the spirit herbs in this herb garden had all withered and were no different from weeds. When they were stuffed into their mouths, there was no effect at all. Moreover, they didn't even taste good. That's right, what a pity. These are all rare spirit herbs, and their ages are also quite good. It's just a pity that they've all withered. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to restore them to their original state. Even if we wanted to restore them, it would be impossible. Even if we had such an ability, these are all at least 10,000 years old. How could we restore them? They all shook their heads, feeling that it was a great pity to watch so many spirit herbs disappear right in front of their eyes. Restoration ability. Yi Tianyun's eyes brightened. He recalled the treasure Tsuetsue that he had obtained before. It was a treasure that could revitalize spirit herbs. It was just that Tsuetsue's ability was too weak, and it was too difficult to revitalize it. Unless its grade was greatly increased, that would be a different story. Let's take it first. Yi Tianyun didn't stand on ceremony. In a single breath, he swept up the entire patch of land and threw it into his inner world. The herb garden in front of him immediately became barren, with nothing left. Little junior brother, what do you want this pile of weeds for? When they saw Yi Tianyun's actions, they were very shocked. They didn't know what Yi Tianyun was going to do with it. There was no effect when they ate it, and it wouldn't return to its original state even if they planted it. Restoring vitality, of course. However, I have to find a way. I don't know if it will work, but I'll give it a try. Yi Tianyun didn't know if Tsuetsue could be restored, but he would give it a try first. Actually, it's not a bad choice to restore it. It's just that the price is probably a little high. Little junior brother, you have to take it easy. You have to see the price clearly. Heavenly Lord Sword Judge and the others all knew that there was a way to revitalize it, but the price was extremely high. For example, if the price of restoring one spirit herb was equivalent to 2 spirit herbs, it was clearly not worth it. That's for sure. I can't be reckless, right? I'm a region lord. I know the trade-offs, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. I almost forgot. If you become a region lord, you have to know how to be even more careful. Heavenly Lord Sword Judge and the others smiled, then shifted their gazes to the side. There are no more treasures to find here. Looks like we can only go. Yi Tianyun nodded. This was the end. Although there were other miscellaneous rooms, he didn't have any interest in searching. The main thing was that there definitely wouldn't be any good treasures in that area. Finding the key was the most important thing. Then they once again entered Yi Tianyun's inner world. Yi Tianyun went straight to the initial area. He wanted to use the golden pyroxene in his hand to open one of the doors. When he came to the area of the 3 doors, he was instantly startled. In front of him was a group of cultivators. There was no lack of acquaintances. This acquaintance was none other than Feng Qiuzun. He didn't expect that Feng Qiuzun would also come here. It was really a little unexpected. Surrounding Feng Qiuzun were 2 great forces that Yi Tianyun loathed. They were the supporters of the Myriad Heaven Divine Realm and the Sacred Peak Divine Realm. They had also sent people over. The names of their forces in the 4th grade Divine Realm were also called like this. It could be said that they had the same name. Actually, this would show that the forces below belonged to them. It would let the other divine realms know who it belonged to, and they wouldn't act recklessly. This was meaningless to Yi Tianyun. He would crush them all the same. Chapter 1472. Miss Fengqiu, this is a 10,000-year-old coral. If it is made into jewelry, not only will it be beautiful, it will also help your cultivation. What is a 10,000-year-old coral? This is a 10,000-year-old sacred wood. If I use it to make a bed, I can even cultivate while sleeping. The top genius Empyreans of the 2 forces stared at each other. Their cultivation was at the upper-level Empyrean level. They were very young, and their bloodlines were not weak. But compared to Fengqiu, they were still lacking. Empyrean Fengqiu was the true genius. Compared to them, they paled in comparison. What was being compared here was not cultivation, but bone age. Fengqiu's bone age was only 1,000 years old. They were tens of thousands of years old. In comparison, they were at the level of ancestors. Fengqiu frowned, gesturing with her hand. Empyrean Tongwu, Empyrean Wuxing, I appreciate your good intentions. Now I have matters to attend to. Please move aside. Fengqiu motioned for them not to block in front of her. The 2 Empyreans could only stand to the side, anger in their eyes. They did not expect that they would not accept their good intentions. It was equivalent to not giving them face. Even so, they did not dare to act rashly. Their cultivation was not only lower than Fengqiu. The key was Fengqiu's reputation, who would dare to make a move against her. So many experts had come in and were all watching. If they acted rashly, something bad would happen. Fengqiu then came to one of the doors. Taking out a white stone, she placed it into the groove. Following that, a ray of light appeared, covering the door in white light, but the door did not open, but was tightly shut, without any movement. Yi Tianyan's eyes narrowed. He did not expect Feng Qiu to have one of the keys. She must have obtained it from outside, and seeing that the ruins were opened, she came to open it. A treasure that even Feng Qiu came to take. It was definitely not simple. It was either not bad, or it had something to do with Feng Qiu. Of course, these were all Yi Tianyan's guesses. From the side, the keys were indeed not here. They could all be outside, or there could be only one inside. No matter what, at least Feng Qiu had one in her hands. No reaction? Venerable Feng Qiu frowned, looking at the other two grooves. Without a doubt, the other two grooves had to be filled at the same time before it could be officially opened. Yi Tianyan was also taken aback. He had thought that only one piece was needed to open the corresponding door. Now it seemed that he had thought too much. He needed 3 keys at once to open all of them. Miss Feng Qiu, the Dragon Supreme ruins can't be opened with just a key. According to what we know, 3 keys are needed to open it. At that moment, Emperor Tunggu walked over with a smile, fiddling with the information he knew. These 3 keys have long been lost outside. During the Divine Realm War, they were all in the hands of Empyrean Dragon Fate's disciples. But they all died outside. To obtain a key is indeed a great lucky chance. I didn't expect Miss Feng Qiu to have a key in her possession. However, coincidentally, I also have a key here. Empyrean Tunggu took out a key from his chest. This stone was also emitting a faint golden light, quite conspicuous. Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes brightened. She didn't expect that Empyrean Tunggu would have a key in his hands. Empyrean Tunggu, I didn't expect you to have a key? Venerable Feng Qiu was pleasantly surprised. Of course I do. You have a key, I have a key, doesn't that mean we are fated? Empyrean Tunggu smiled. After this matter is over, how about Miss Feng Qiu come to my faction? We can sit down and have a good chat to improve our relationship. Despicable, shameless. This scene fell into everyone's eyes, and they immediately felt shameless. But she had a key and they didn't. Wasn't this the best proof? Especially Empyrean Tunggu, his face darkened. He didn't have a key. Just as Heavenly Venerable Tunggu had said, the 3 keys had all been lost outside. It was already very good to have 2 of them, let alone 3. Now there are only 2 keys. Aren't we still unable to open the door? Empyrean Wuxia walked over and retorted. He didn't want to see Empyrean Tunggu be so arrogant. We can't open the door, but who knows if a 3rd key will appear in the future. The treasures in the revered dragon ruins are quite good. I heard that Empyrean Dragon Fortune's strongest treasure is inside. He didn't take it out during the Divine Realm battle. Empyrean Tunggu smiled. Besides, I can give this key to Miss Feng Qiu. When Miss Feng Qiu collects the 3rd key, won't she be able to open it? Of course, as long as Miss Feng Qiu comes to our Divine Realm as a guest, we will give this key to her with both hands. Such despicable methods made the others feel very unhappy. But there was nothing they could do. This thing was so effective. The 3 keys were so precious. To give one away was really generous. Venerable Feng Qiu's gaze turned cold. She directly refused. Sorry, I cannot agree to this request. Venerable Feng Qiu was not moved by this. Instead, she straightforwardly refused. After Empyrean Tunggu was rejected, his face darkened. He didn't think that this Empyrean Feng Qiu wouldn't even give him this little bit of face. She was really too insensible. Miss Feng Qiu, you're not even willing to agree to this little request? This is a key, not an ordinary treasure. I'm only inviting you to be a guest. I won't do anything to you. Empyrean Tunggu said solemnly. Sorry, I still cannot agree. Venerable Feng Qiu wasn't a fool. How could she not know the other party's intentions? If she agreed, she definitely wouldn't be able to come out easily when she went to that force. Not to mention anything else, the price of this key was at least equivalent to an Empyrean-level treasure. But in Venerable Feng Qiu's view, this business wasn't worth it at all. If she opened this door, it wasn't just her who could enter, but it was open from all directions. Anyone could enter. In the end, who would lose the most? Without a doubt, it would be her. Immediately, she took out another key and inserted it into another notch. She said solemnly, Empyrean Tungwu, whether or not you want to open it now is up to you. This time, everyone was stunned. They didn't think that Venerable Fengqiu would have another key. Now all 3 keys were gathered. As long as Empyrean Tungwu pushed it forward, the door here would open. At this time, Yi Tianyun, who was at the side, looked at the key in his inventory and shook his head. Logically speaking, there should only be 3 keys. Adding the one he had, it was equivalent to the 4th key. It was a bit of an exception. Chapter 1473. Venerable Fengqiu gave the choice to Empyrean Tongwu, indicating for him to quickly choose whether to open the door or not. If he didn't open it, then no one could open it. The gazes of the others immediately gathered on Empyrean Tongwu. Whether they could eat and drink well, and find top treasures depended on Empyrean Tongwu's choice. Miss Fengqiu, this is even better. As long as you agree to be a guest, I will immediately hand over the key with both hands. It is very simple for you to be a guest of our force. We will absolutely not make things difficult for you. If not, then I am very sorry, I can only choose to leave. Empyrean Tongwu was not anxious at all. The key was in his hands. Would it fly away? As long as he did not agree, this door would never open. As for forcefully snatching it, he had brought many experts. Even if they fought, they could not lose. Those who could come to this area were not ordinary people. They were at least middle-level Empyrean level or above. As long as there were no treasures to fight over, they wouldn't fight. But now there was something, but they did not dare to casually snatch it. Venerable Fengqiu's expression was ugly. She did not expect Empyrean Tongwu to do this. If he really left, there was really nothing she could do. This meant that she had to find Empyrean Tongwu before he would choose to give it to her. Beside her, Empyrean Tongxing was very unhappy. Could there be a way? Empyrean Tongwu had something that Venerable Fengqiu was interested in, but he did not have it. Just as she was thinking about something, Yi Tianyun stood up and said with a faint smile, Venerable Fengqiu, long time no see. When Venerable Fengqiu looked over, she was a little surprised, then smiled slightly. Yes, long time no see, I did not expect to see you here. With this greeting, the others all looked over, and upon a closer look, they found that it was a divine lord. This was a little unbelievable. Everyone here was at the Empyrean level. How could a divine lord sneak in? Strange. A divine lord has the ability to come here? So many of us have come in. Many places have been opened up. There is no more danger. It is not surprising that he could sneak in. The key is that he seems to be familiar with Venerable Fengqiu. The people around started guessing. They were very curious about Yi Tianyun's identity. Empyrean Tongwu and the others frowned. Empyrean Fengqiu's attitude towards Yi Tianyun was quite good. This made them feel extremely unhappy, but they could not casually attack Yi Tianyun, who knew what kind of relationship the two of them had. If they were good friends, then if they killed Yi Tianyun, Fengqiu's impression of them would definitely be extremely bad. Yes, I did not expect to see Empyrean Fengqiu here. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, Speaking of which, Empyrean Fengqiu is still missing a key. Yes, we still lack a key. Venerable Fengqiu shook her head at the thought of Empyrean Tongwu not wanting to give the key. Don't worry. It just so happens that I have a key here. Let's see if we can open it, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Bullshit. Celestial Lord Tungwu sized him up and said in a deep voice, You have a key on you? If yours is a key, then what is mine? A fake key, it's that simple. Yi Tianyun took out the key and directly handed it to Empyrean Fengqiu saying, Try it, see if it has any effect. When Yi Tianyun took out the golden pyroxene, everyone's eyes lit up. It really was exactly the same, there was no difference between the two. You really have this key. No, yours is the fake one. My key was found in the corpse of one of Empyrean Longyun's disciples. It definitely can't be fake. Empyrean Tongwu said sternly. His key was indeed a real key, and not a fake one. But there was no other way, he just happened to meet Yi Tianyun, this strange person. Both of them were real keys. But after Yi Tianyun said it, the meaning was different. Is that so? Try it and you'll know. Yi Tianyan indicated for Emperor Fengqiu to embed it. I said it's fake, so it's fake, you'll know in a while. Emperor Tongwu was very confident. He was sure that what he had was real, so he didn't have any worries. He just wanted to see Yi Tianyan fail, and then he would lose face. Many thanks. Emperor Fengqiu took the key. Actually, she was a little doubtful whether it was real or fake, but no matter if it was real or fake, wouldn't she know after trying it? Then she picked up the key and embed it. Just as it was embed, the 3 doors suddenly emitted a dazzling light, and the god seals on them quickly lit up. Then there was a rumbling sound, and the doors really opened. The group was dumbfounded, and at the same time as the doors opened, they all turned their gazes to Emperor Tongwu. Their faces strange. Now that the doors were opened, it meant that the key in Emperor Tongwu's hands was fake, and not the real thing. No, impossible. This key of mine is absolutely real. It can't be fake. Emperor Tongwu shouted, his face livid. How could he have a fake? This was something he personally found and then took out. How could it be fake? Fake is fake. What else is there to say? Now that the doors are open, what's the point of talking nonsense? Emperor Tongxing, who was beside him, took the opportunity to sneer. Using a fake to deceive Miss Fengqiu, how sinister. If it wasn't for this little brother, you really would have succeeded. You. Emperor Tongwu's eyes were red as he stared at Yi Tianyan, having the urge to kill him. How did you get it? Where did you get it? I picked this up. Yi Tianyan said casually. Is there a problem? Impossible. There should be only one of this thing. Emperor Tongwu's face alternated between green and white, feeling like he was going crazy. So many people were looking over here, and it really made him feel very embarrassed. But the truth was in front of him, and no one would believe his nonsense. The doors are open, the doors are open. At this time, the doors finally opened completely, and slowly opened to the side. A wave of air rolled out from inside, turning into 3 golden lights that shrouded them. This wave of air made them feel a little depressed, as if there was some special treasure inside. Emperor Tianyan, I wonder if we can go together? Emperor Fengqiu smiled at Yi Tianyan. If it wasn't for Yi Tianyan, they really would have fallen into the trap. She didn't expect Emperor Tongwu to be such a sinister villain, deceiving her. If she agreed to this key, wouldn't she fall into the trap? Chapter 1474. Of course, Yi Tianyan was not afraid of the threat from the 10,000 Heaven Divine Realm, or the Sacred Peak Divine Realm. However, even if they didn't come to find trouble with him, he would still find trouble with them. After all, when the celestial realm of the 3 realms first arrived, they immediately sent people to besiege them. If it weren't for the protection of the barrier, it would have been flattened by the 2 god realms. Under such circumstances, how could he let these people go? Even if Emperor Wise Star hadn't acted against him, he would have acted against them when he had the chance. These were all experience points. If he killed them one by one, breaking through to the Empyrean realm would be no problem at all. Now that he was about to be targeted by Heavenly Venerable Tongwu, how could he possibly let him off when he suddenly appeared and ruined Heavenly Venerable Tongwu's plans? It was just that Feng Qiuzun was at the side, otherwise he would have made a move long ago. On the side, Emperor Wise Star was gloating, feeling that this was very funny. This was the effect he wanted. He had originally thought that he would lose, but now it seemed that not only did Celestial Venerable Tongwu not gain anything, but he had also dug a deep pit for himself and jumped into it. However, everyone's attention was focused on the 3 doors in front of them. No one knew which one to choose. In their opinion, the 3 doors could lead to death, or they could lead to treasures. For the sake of safety, most people did not choose to act. Instead, they waited for the first person to eat the crab. It would undoubtedly be much safer to let them be the vanguard, and the rest follow behind. From their point of view, even if they were the first to eat the crab, wouldn't it be fine to snatch it later? These people were the 2 great heavenly venerables of the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm, and the Myriad Heaven Celestial Realm. They were not anxious at all, and were just waiting outside. They had the advantage in numbers, so no one could snatch resources from them. What, you're not going in? Empyrean Fertile Star shot a glance at the Empyrean beside him. Those Empyreans retreated one after another, similarly not daring to enter casually. The door seemed to be open. But who would dare to casually enter? At that time, it would be a matter of life and death. They did not want to lose their lives here. They still had a lot of things they wanted to do. I'll enter. At this time, there was an Empyrean who was very bold and took the lead to charge in. They felt that this was their only chance to turn things around. If he could get his hands on some top-notch treasures, he would be able to turn things around, especially some of the more special treasures. Following that, a group of people rushed in uniformly. With someone taking the lead, others immediately followed. Empyrean Walker and the others were very satisfied with this situation. This was the effect they wanted. Divine Lord Tianyin, this way. Venerable Fengqiu stepped forward and chose one of the doors. Miss Fengqiu, why are you in such a hurry? Wouldn't it be better to let the group in front explore the path first? It will be much safer this way. I'm sure you've sensed it along the way. There are many dangerous places, and it's easy to fall into danger. Empyrean Star's expression changed when he saw this. Empyrean Tunggu similarly wanted to persuade, but he had long lost all face. How could he still say it? Now this opportunity had been snatched away by Empyrean Wise Star. I'm very sorry. I'm not the kind of person who is afraid of death. Fengqiu Zun said indifferently. Especially the door here, I was the one who opened it. Naturally it was opened by me personally. After saying this, Fengqiu Zun brought Tianyin to one of the doors and quickly disappeared in the light. Empyrean Star's gaze turned cold as he said hatefully. Really stubborn. These women are so stubborn. If not for your reputation and talent, I wouldn't even bother with you. Empyrean Star was very unhappy. Beside him, Empyrean Tunggu sneered and quickly followed. He didn't choose any other path. He just followed Tianyin. Without a doubt, he was heading towards Tianyin's side. Or towards Venerable Fengqiu's side. Do all of you want to die? Empyrean Star frowned and immediately walked forward. Let's go. In the end, he still chose to walk the same path as Venerable Fengqiu. No matter what, it depended on the opportunity. Who knows, he might be able to save the damsel in distress. What they fancied was Venerable Fengqiu's reputation. It was similar to what Tianyin fancied. It was this saintess-like reputation. If she could join their forces, it would definitely be greatly improved. But Venerable Fengqiu did not want to join anyone. Even her savior was not willing to join. Tianyin and Venerable Fengqiu chose this path. They were the first batch. The people before them all chose the other two paths. The main reason was that Venerable Fengqiu chose this path. They did not fight with her. Empyrean Fengqiu, you chose this path. Is there any information? Tianyin saw that Venerable Fengqiu did not even think before choosing this path. He was slightly puzzled. There is no information. It's completely a random guess. Venerable Fengqiu smiled. A smile filled with friendliness greeted him. It really had the effect of purifying one's soul. A random guess. Tianyin shrugged helplessly. But you were able to get 2 keys. You must be fated with this place. I really did not know that Venerable Fengqiu would be interested in this place. I thought that you would not care about anything. You only know how to walk around and save those who are in trouble. Venerable Fengqiu was silent. She did not say anything. To Tianyin, it was a tacit admission that she was interested in this place. And she came with a purpose. Seems like I was right. I believe that there is something you want in here. Or perhaps, you really have some relationship with the owner of this place? Tianyin squinted at her and said, I do have some relationship. But compared to that, this place is more dangerous. I hope that Divine Lord Tianyin will follow me and not wander around. I can at least ensure your safety. It can be considered a form of repayment to you. As for how many opportunities you can obtain here, that will depend on your own luck. Venerable Fengqiu did not reveal everything. She did not know Tianyin well. It was normal that she did not confess everything. Tianyin's eyes narrowed. From these words, he could tell that Venerable Feng Qiu really knew the way. She even knew how to go. How could it be like what she said, that it was a blind guess? In fact, Yi Tianyan also knows how to go about this. From the blueprint he obtained before, this is the right way to go. There was only one path that could lead to the innermost space. The other two paths were not wrong. There were still some treasures to speak of. Chapter 1475. Yi Tianyan's cultivation was only at the Divine Monarch 7th level, and had not changed much, causing Feng Qiuzun to think that he was only at the Divine Monarch level. He did not even have the cultivation of an Empyrean, and still came here alone. He was really bold. So she took up the responsibility of protecting him. After all, Yi Tianyan had saved her before. Although she had asked for payment, but to her, it was not enough to completely repay this kindness. After entering, there was still a long walkway inside, and the surroundings did not change much. But there was light coming from all directions, and it looked very strange. Even the ground was constantly emitting light, and it looked a little strange. A blue light flashed in Yi Tianyan's eyes, and the scene in front of him appeared in front of him. There were small hidden formations everywhere, and they were very well hidden. If not for his grade increasing, he really would not have been able to see them. These small formations were really too well hidden. Even some divine engraver of a high grade might not be able to discover them. As for the power, Yi Tianyan probed a little, and they were all killing formations. If one really stepped on them, they could be seriously injured or even die. He did not expect that there would be so many dangerous formations here. If those people thought that after opening, it would be safe inside, then they were too naive. There was a large formation set up everywhere, as if it was specially set up to exterminate all intruders. Follow my footsteps. You cannot make a single mistake, or else even I cannot save you. Feng Qiuzun's expression was serious, and she put away that amiable smile from before, and walked step by step inside. Obviously she knew how dangerous it was inside, and even if she was familiar with this place, she had to be careful, or else she would not even know how she died. I know. Yi Tianyan responded. He didn't point it out. Wherever there was a formation or something, he just followed along. He wanted to see where Feng Qiuzun would bring him. Or perhaps he wanted to see how Feng Qiuzun's character was. When Feng Qiuzun's loyalty to him did not reach 100, she might betray him. Maybe later on, when she encountered danger, or some special treasure, she might kill him. After all, his cultivation was only at the Divine Monarch level. To her, it was just a matter of one move. An upper-level Empyrean and a Divine Lord. The difference between them didn't need to be imagined. Immediately, Feng Qiuzun slowed down her pace, walked forward step by step. Yi Tianyan also followed step by step. These steps all happened to land in the gaps of the numerous formations. There was only one gap in each area. Just from this, one could tell that Feng Qiuzun was familiar with the environment here. If not, she would not be able to find the way so easily. Venerable Feng Qiu, it seems like you are very familiar with this place? Yi Tianyan followed behind, and at the same time he started to talk leisurely. He was naturally not afraid of going the wrong way. Feng Qiuzun might be afraid of going the wrong way, but he was not. His heaven eye was always open, so he could see everything that was going on. Although he knew that Empyrean Feng Qiu would not harm him, but he had to be careful. Who knew if Empyrean Feng Qiu had forgotten? If they triggered the array here, they would really be finished. Don't speak. Feng Qiuzun's expression was still very serious, looking around to prevent herself from going the wrong way. Yi Tianyan saw how serious Feng Qiuzun was, and could only obediently shut his mouth. It seemed like Feng Qiuzun knew the path, but she was not familiar with it. At least not the type that she walked often. Otherwise, Feng Qiuzun would definitely walk forward casually, and not carefully step by step. At this time, Empyrean Tong Wu and the rest caught up, and just as they came up, they saw that Yi Tianyan and the rest were already far ahead. At the same time, their figures were somewhat hazy, and they could not see the situation under their feet. This was all because of the light emitted, causing them to be unable to clearly see Feng Qiuzun's footsteps. In case they knew where to go, chase after them. Empyrean Tong Wu signaled for his subordinates to go first, One of the lower-level Empyreans looked around, and then tentatively walked forward. Just as he stepped into the passage, countless rays of light pierced through, directly turning this lower-level Empyrean into a sieve. "Come back!" Empyrean Tongwu was shocked, and quickly hooked his subordinate back. But this lower-level Empyrean was already on the verge of death. His whole body was covered in dense wounds, looking terrible. And it was unknown how many times his soul had been pierced. "Damn it, it's all attack arrays in front. How does that woman know how to go?" Empyrean Tongwu looked at his subordinate, feeling very angry, and quickly signaled his other subordinates to heal him. No matter what, he was a Empyrean. As long as he was not dead, he could not be wasted. "Empyrean Tongwu, thank you for trying, otherwise we really wouldn't know that the power of the array here is so strong. Speaking of which, if there was no problem with your key, I believe that Empyrean Fengqiu would definitely bring you in. Now TSK, what a pity." At this time, Empyrean Tongwu also came up, and when he saw the Empyrean on Empyrean Tongwu's side was injured, he felt very refreshed, and couldn't wait for Etianerian Tongwu's side to be destroyed. "I'll say it again, my key is not fake. As for how that kid got the key, I don't know either. Maybe it's an extra key that came out." Empyrean Tongwu explained coldly. "No need to explain to me. Want to explain to Empyrean Fengqiu, but now, she definitely won't believe you." Empyrean Tongwu came to the front here, sized it up carefully and said coolly, "Don't say anything else, cooperate for the time being, how about it?" "Cooperate? How to cooperate?" Empyrean Tongwu looked at him coldly and said, "Very simple. We came this time for nothing more than to obtain the treasures here. But I can tell that you're a little more interested in that kid, and Empyrean Fengqiu. Let's make a deal, you want the people, I want all the treasures, how about it?" Empyrean Tongxing got up and said coolly after inspecting this place. "Coveting all the treasures, your appetite is really big enough. Do you think that I don't know what you're eyeing?" Empyrean Tongwu said in a cold voice. "Dragon Sovereign Temple's most precious, apart from a pile of Empyrean-level treasures, there's also the bloodline of an ancient Empyrean. The bloodline of an ancient Empyrean is the most important. Do you take me for a fool? Ancient Empyrean bloodline, is it? Then I'll give you a small share, how about it? One has to know, the grand array here isn't that easy to crack. We just happen to have the corresponding divine inscription master on our side, and can break through bit by bit. Otherwise, don't even think about going in," Empyrean Tongxing suggested. "You're merely paying more attention to Empyrean Fengqiu. At that time, just forcefully possess her will do. I feel that compared to the ancient Empyrean bloodline, it's much more precious." Empyrean Tongwu's eyes narrowed, seemingly a little moved. "Can't I wait here for her to come out?" Empyrean Tongwu said in a cold voice. "Then why don't you give it a try? I don't believe that there's only one exit here. If it's too late, they'll run," Empyrean Tongxing said fiercely. "Okay, cooperate," Empyrean Tongwu said in a cold voice. "At that time, I want that kid's life, and also that Empyrean Fengqiu's life, to make her completely submit to me." Chapter 1476. The two great forces once again came to an agreement. After weighing the pros and cons, both sides immediately knew what to do. The two forces both had their own needs, their thoughts and goals were different, so naturally it was easy to work together. For example, Empyrean Tongwu paid more attention to Venerable Fengqiu. He also wanted the treasure, but from the looks of it, it was not so easy to obtain. Empyrean Huaxing was interested in Venerable Fengqiu, but not as interested as Empyrean Tongwu, so he could choose to give up. In his view, obtaining the treasure was the most important thing, everything else was superficial. They immediately began to research where the gap was, and how to successfully pass through here. Not only did Empyrean Huaxing have a divine carving master, in fact Empyrean Tongwu also had a divine carving master, and with the two working together, it would undoubtedly speed up the search. In a short while, they immediately found the correct route, and followed them step by step, chasing towards the area that Yi Tianyan and the others were heading towards. As they painstakingly caught up step by step, Yi Tianyan and Empyrean Fengqiu had already passed more than half the distance, and there was still a small half that they had not passed. Along the way, Venerable Feng Qiu's forehead was covered in cold sweat, evidently from nervousness. After all, the power of the Great Formation here was not weak, and even an upper-level Empyrean like her could not easily resist it. The main thing was that one wrong step could easily lead to many mistakes, so she absolutely could not make a single mistake. Because she was too focused, it caused her mental strength to be severely exhausted, and her forehead was covered in sweat. In contrast, Yi Tianyun was relaxed, without any sense of nervousness. The next step should be here. Venerable Feng Qiu stepped to the side, and behind her, Yi Tianyun's expression changed, and he hurriedly wanted to call out to her, but it was already too late. Venerable Feng Qiu stepped, but the place she stepped on was naturally not the right place, but the wrong place. Xiu xiu xiu. Countless beams of light continuously shot out from the walls, and even the ground, piercing towards her. She was startled, and just as she was about to resist, a large hand suddenly wrapped around her waist and pulled her back at an extremely fast speed. Pung pung pung. The beams of light kept hitting the walls before disappearing. They did not affect the surroundings at all. At the same time, they did not affect the area where Yi Tianyun was. This place was divided according to region, so there wouldn't be a situation where triggering a large formation would lead to danger everywhere. If that was really the case, he would have to start all over again after taking one wrong step. Feng Qiuzun, you were almost beaten into a sieve. Yi Tianyun put her down. If he had not been faster, Feng Qiuzun would have been turned into a sieve. Even though her cultivation wasn't bad and she could block quite a few attacks, she would still suffer some injuries. Thank you. Feng Qiuzun's face turned red. She did not think that she would remember wrongly. She had thought that she would be the one protecting Yi Tianyun, but now it seemed that Yi Tianyun was the one helping her. It doesn't matter. Where do we go now? Yi Tianyun pointed ahead. This. I forgot. Feng Qiuzun thought for a moment, then shook her head. What? You forgot? Yi Tianyun was stunned. He did not think that Feng Qiuzun would forget. In a situation where she did not remember clearly, she still dared to come here. I really don't remember much about this. I came here a long time ago. I only remember a bit. I don't remember much now. Feng Qiuzun blushed, feeling very embarrassed. That means, starting from here, you don't remember much? Yi Tianyun pointed at the passage in front and asked. No, I don't remember much of it. For example, I don't remember much of the place in front. I only remember a bit of the place in front. Feng Qiuzun shook her head. You've been here before. Looks like you really have been here before. You really do have some relationship with the owner of this place. Yi Tianyun smiled. As expected, as they advanced, she exposed more and more things. Didn't I say it before? I do have some relationship. Feng Qiuzun's gaze turned to the formation in front and she frowned. The key is how to break this place. That is the key. In terms of formations, I'm not very familiar. Do we have to try again and again? If we try again and again, it will take at least a few months to finish. Yi Tianyun rolled his eyes at her. He had thought she was a strong teammate, who knew she was a trap. The area in front of them was not big, but there were so many places, only one was correct, so it would take a long time to try. This time might be longer, or it might be shorter. But now, we can only try like this. Feng Qiuzun sighed. How about this? Let me try and see how my luck is. Yi Tianyun pointed to the front. Try your luck? Feng Qiuzun was taken aback, then shook her head. That's not reliable. If I try it's fine, but if you try you'll be easily injured. Alright, I'll let you try. I'll explain. How about it? Yi Tianyun smiled. No problem, it's all trying anyway. Feng Qiuzun nodded. She was not a divine engraver, so she naturally did not know how to go in this area. She could only try. Then let's start from here. Yi Tianyun pointed to an empty space in front, indicating for her to jump there. Okay. Feng Qiuzun prepared everything, quickly summoning 2 Empyrean spirit treasures to protect her body, as if she was facing a great enemy. Then she lifted her foot and stepped forward, landing on the ground in front of her. When she was prepared to be attacked, she found that nothing happened, which meant she had walked to the right place. No, nothing. Feng Qiuzun was shocked. She did not expect to succeed on the first try. She turned her head, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. Looks like your luck is not bad. You succeeded on the first try. Yi Tianyan said with a smile. This luck is indeed not bad. Feng Qiuzun did not know what to say. Succeeding on the first try made her feel that it was inconceivable. She originally had the thought of trying many times, but who knew that she would succeed on the first try? This was something she had not expected. Didn't I say that my luck is not bad? Yi Tianyan smiled as he stepped over, looking ahead. Do you have an impression of what's ahead? I have a little impression. I'll continue to lead the way. Feng Qiuzun did not think too much. She really thought that Yi Tianyan's luck was heaven-defying. That was why he succeeded on the first try. Then she continued to lead the way a few more times, but her memory became blurry again, and she forgot the road ahead. You forgot again? Yi Tianyan was speechless. Yes, I forgot a little. The memories from when I was young are not very deep. Feng Qiuzun said awkwardly. Then let's continue trying. I think we'll go over there. Yi Tianyan pointed to the area in front. Feng Qiuzun lifted her foot. There was still no problem. One step was right. Feng Qiuzun was shocked again, and said to Yi Tianyan, You're right again. Chapter 1477. If he guessed it the first time, then forget it. If his luck was good, he could guess it the first time. But now that he guessed it the second time, she was horrified. But looking up and down at Yi Tianyan, she couldn't see any flaws. She felt that Yi Tianyan shouldn't be a divine carving master. Even if he was, he couldn't find a flaw in it in such a short time. If that was the case, then wasn't it too amazing? The grade had to be at least 6th or 7th grade. Yi Tianyan's cultivation was only at the divine monarch level. In her opinion, he couldn't be a high-level divine carving master. So there was only one possibility, and that was that his luck defied the heavens. He really guessed it right. It wasn't that there weren't such people. There really were cultivators with heaven-defying luck, who could guess it right easily. Your luck is really amazing. You are the luckiest cultivator I've ever seen. Feng Qiuzun shook her head. If not for you, I would have spent a lot of time here and it would have been very difficult to reach the end. It's fine, just a bit of luck. If not for Feng Qiuzun bringing me here, I probably wouldn't have made it here. Yi Tianyan smiled. Feng Qiuzun nodded, feeling that it was true. If one could continue defying the heavens, this wasn't just luck, it was simply knowing the right path. Occasionally being right once or twice was understandable, but if it was always right, how could it be luck? I should still remember the path behind. Let's continue. Feng Qiuzun continued to lead Yi Tianyan forward. Her memory was fragmented, and it was already not bad that she could remember most of it. Even without Yi Tianyan leading the way, she could try it bit by bit without any problems. She just needed to spend a bit more time. With her ability, there wasn't much pressure on her to protect herself. She just needed to spend a bit more time. Feng Qiuzun finally led him step by step on the right path. The impression towards the back would probably be deeper, so that it would be smoother and smoother. But when he was young, it was normal not to remember much. It wasn't like now, his memory was amazing. If he wanted to remember something, there wasn't any pressure at all. As Feng Qiuzun was leading the way, they passed through easily, and finally Yi Tianyan saw an exit ahead. He could finally leave this damned place. The exit is just ahead. Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes lit up. Even if she could remember it later, she could not guarantee that it was correct, so her nerves were still stretched taut. When she saw the exit, she could finally heave a sigh of relief. It had been a dangerous journey. After passing through several large formations, he stepped out of the gate and finally exited through it. Yi Tianyan also took a step forward and walked out of the tunnel. What appeared in front of him was not a treasure vault, but a huge golden tree. The golden tree grew there, its thick branches and leaves spreading out in all directions, enveloping the huge temple. Golden tree. When Yi Tianyan raised his eyes and saw this giant tree, he was shocked. The gigantic golden tree covered the entire area, but that wasn't the main point. It wasn't strange for a special area to have a giant tree. What was shocking was that this giant tree was a divine tree. Golden tree. Middle-level Empyrean level cultivation. The golden leaves on its body could be used to refine weapons or pills. Its golden tree sap could even be used to strengthen the physique. In an emergency, it could turn into countless sharp blades and reap the lives of others. It was a tree demon. Its strength was shocking. Tree demon. The golden tree in front of him was actually a tree demon. Tree demons weren't anything special. The main point was that this was a middle-level Empyrean tree demon. Its strength was powerful. It could definitely kill millions of enemies. Just as he entered, Tianyan immediately felt that he was locked on. A killing intent surrounded him from all directions. And at the same time, the branches in all directions started to tremble, preparing to fight at any time. Little Gold, don't be nervous, it's me. At this time, Empyrean Feng Qiu called out softly, indicating that the golden tree shouldn't be nervous. Little Gold? When Tianyan heard this, he felt like vomiting blood. She actually called him Little Gold. But thinking about it, she had said that she had come to this area before, that she was young and immature. Calling him Little Gold was not a problem. With Empyrean Feng Qiu's shout, the golden tree really didn't have any killing intent, and immediately shook twice at her, as if expressing its happiness. At the same time, a few branches from the side wrapped around her. Empyrean Feng Qiu did not refuse. She reached out to grab the branch, gently comforting it, smiling slightly, a warm aura pervading the place. This golden tree couldn't speak, even if it broke through to Empyrean level. Some still couldn't speak, but it could clearly express its meaning, and at the same time, it could transmit energy and information. It was no different from being able to speak. Now that the branches wrapped around her, it was actually talking to Empyrean Feng Qiu. I know, it's been hard on you all these years. It's always been hard on you. This time, I came here to bring you away. Uncle has already left. There's no meaning in staying here. Empyrean Feng Qiu lightly touched the branch, her face full of worry. Rustle. The branches made rustling sounds, as if they were crying. Golden leaves continuously fell, turning into balls of golden flames, as if they were worshipping something. Tianyan watched from the side. He could feel the sorrow that pervaded the hall. From this simple conversation, he already understood that the master of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine was related to Empyrean Feng Qiu. No wonder she was familiar with this place. How could she not know her uncle's shrine? After a long time, they finally finished their simple reminiscing. Under Empyrean Feng Qiu's wave, the enormous golden tree quickly shrunk, turning into an extremely small tree, and then jumped over, landing on Empyrean Feng Qiu's palm. This made Tianyan feel very envious. He had taken in an Empyrean just like that, and it was a spirit medicine type Empyrean. Her entire body was a treasure. If he could get his hands on her, it would greatly strengthen the Three Realms God domain. If I can recruit this little girl into my sect, won't they all be mine? Tianyan's gaze flashed, but Empyrean Feng Qiu was really hard to swallow. Two great god domains were not willing to recruit her. He did not know what conditions he had to offer to swallow her. I almost forgot. These are for you. They will be of great help. At this time, Empyrean Feng Qiu came to Tianyan's side, taking down a dozen golden leaves and handing them to him. As the saying goes, everyone who sees it has a share. But what he got was the leaves. Empyrean Feng Qiu got the golden tree. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.